Chapter 40. Ji Wenbin couldn't understand. Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were so good, yet she didn't plan on developing them as a side career. If this were to spread, who knew how many people would be shocked? However, cultivation was the mainstream of the Shengxian continent. Bailey Hongzhuang's choice was understandable, so he could only support her. If you want to be a cultivator, then you have to focus all your energy on cultivation. You must avoid multitasking. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. This sentence again. After the last time, Ji Wenbin didn't plan on tangling too much with this matter. This little girl already had her own plans. Young master, this Miss Lin's medical skills are not simple. He Mu's usually wooden face was filled with surprise. When Miss Lin had examined the young master, he had been very skeptical, but now he completely believed in her medical skills. Many doctors were helpless against this illness, but Miss Lin was able to cure it. Then when she said that she could cure the young master's legs, was it true? Di Beichun remained unperturbed. When Bailey Hongzhuang had described his symptoms, he already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were not simple. Even the world-famous godly Dr. Feng couldn't clearly describe his symptoms like Bailey Hongzhuang when he first diagnosed him. Young master, should we ask Miss Lin to treat you? He Mu probed. As long as Miss Lin could cure the young master's legs, no matter what the reward, they would be willing to pay. Di Beichun waved his hand. There's no rush. He had already waited for so long, so he didn't mind waiting a little longer. Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden rise was just too strange. Xinyuan Huan had treated Bailey Hongzhuang like that, so it was reasonable to say that Bailey Hongzhuang should hate Xinyuan Huan. Now she was treating him. A playful smile bloomed on Xinyuan Huan's lips. Based on his contact with Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be so kind. If that was the case, there was only one explanation left. Xinyuan Huan was poisoned by her. Not only did she manage to deal with Xinyuan Huan, but the reputation of godly Dr. Square also increased. Even Xinyuan Huan had to come and thank her. This deal of killing 3 birds with 1 stone, Bailey Hongzhuang, was really worth it. He found this woman more and more interesting. She was smart and wise, cunning but not treacherous, cruel but not heartless. She was destined to be a character. 3 days later, in the Eastern Palace, Xinyuan Huan recovered his health. All the pain in his body had disappeared, making him feel as if he had been reborn, indescribably comfortable. He couldn't help but think of that fairy-like white figure. Xinyuan Huan hurriedly pulled a maidservant and asked, "When I was unconscious, was there a girl in white who gave me medicine?" "Your Highness, that girl is the one who cured you." "Hongzhuang, Mississippi," the maidservant replied. Seeing that it was indeed her, Xinyuan Huan's eyes showed a touch of joy. "Which Hongzhuang, miss?" "The doctor of godly Dr. Square." "Hongzhuang, Miss Hongzhuang." "Hongzhuang, miss." Xinyuan Huan was slightly startled. The vague figure in his mind gradually became clear, and finally he saw the face of Hongzhuang, Mississippi. It turned out that the one who saved him was Hongzhuang Miss he met on the street. "I told you, with my style, Hongzhuang Miss will definitely admire me." Chapter 41. "Servants, prepare a sedan for me. I want to leave the palace." Xinyuan Huan laughed in his heart. "Beauty, wait for me to find you." As Bailey Hongzhuang treated a few more patients, the name of godly Dr. Xinyuan spread through the streets and alleys. But all the patients treated by Bailey Hongzhuang had recovered their health, and some hidden diseases that had been difficult to cure for many years were also cured here. In a short time, godly Dr. Square's reputation spread even more. All the patients treated by Bailey Hongzhuang began to promote her. This was simply good news for everyone. Her reputation gradually spread from the imperial city to other places, and people came in an endless stream to seek medical treatment from other cities. At the same time, the 2 attendants introduced by Ji Wenbin also came to godly Dr. Square to help. After the old doctor left, Du Tianxua and Dong Sairu began to worry about their livelihood. With their medical skills, they didn't have enough ability to open a clinic, but finding another master wasn't easy either. Ever since the old doctor left, they had been worrying at home, until Ji Wenbin found them. When the 2 found out that they could work in the famous godly Dr. Square, They felt as if they had been hit by a big meat pie. They were so excited that they couldn't speak for a long time. Only when they started working in Godly Doctor Square did Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu begin to believe that they had become members of Godly Doctor Square. Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu cherished this rare opportunity, so they were very diligent in their work, which made Bailey Hongzhuang very satisfied. Godly Doctor Square's reputation spread, and Bailey Yuyin, who had been living a miserable life at home, also seemed to see hope. Since Bailey Hongzhuang could cure so many people, she wondered if she could make her skin as bright and clean as before. Yuyin, Godly Doctor Square, only treats 10 patients a day. Mother paid a high price to get a place. Quickly go and take a look. Su Wanjing held Bailey Yuyin's hand as she spoke. Today, Bailey Yuyin was no longer as gorgeous as before. Fine scars covered her skin, making her look extremely hideous. It could be said that she was disfigured. Over the past few days, Bailey Yuyin had been in low spirits. She was heartbroken to see her like this. Now that she finally had this opportunity, she could only hope that Miracle Dr. Xian lived up to his reputation and could really cure Bailey Yuyin. Hearing this, Bailey Yuyin's eyes were filled with excitement. Mother, you really got a spot? She had long wanted to seek medical treatment when the reputation of the Godly Doctor spread. However, there were too many people fighting for the spot, and it wasn't convenient for her to appear. Thus, she waited until today. Su Wanjing smiles and nods. You are Mother's precious daughter. Mother will naturally take your matters to heart. Thank you, Mother. Bailey Yuyin said excitedly. As a woman, the most important thing was her appearance. These days, she almost didn't want to look at herself, let alone the Crown Prince. Once she recovered her looks, she would be able to return to the Crown Prince's side. She might even become the next Crown Princess. Thinking of this, Bailey Yuyin's smile became even more radiant. She believed that she would definitely be able to recover. Miss Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang had just finished treating her 9th patient today when a familiar voice that made her loathe sounded in front of Godly Doctor Square. Quickly look. His Highness the Crown Prince is here. His Highness the Crown Prince has really recovered. It's all thanks to Miss Hongzhuang's miraculous hands. Otherwise, His Highness the Crown Prince's soul would have already returned to the 9th heaven. Chapter 42. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang only treated 10 patients a day, Godly Doctor Square was still bustling with people waiting in line. Even if there was nothing to do, everyone was used to coming here to take a look, so Xin Yuan Huan was immediately recognized by everyone. Crown Prince. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a polite smile, but it was less cordial than usual and more alienated. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him, Xin Yuan Huan's heart couldn't help but tremble. This Bailey Hongzhuang was like a lotus flower rising out of the water, elegant and refined, making people yearn for her. This white dress, fluttering in the wind, was exactly the appearance of the fairy he saw before he fell into a coma. Xin Yuan Huan suppressed the excitement in his heart and walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Hongzhuang is my savior. Calling me Crown Prince is too strange. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Xin Yuan Huan with a puzzled expression. Xin Yuan Huan smiled brightly. Just call me by my name. That's not very good. Bailey Hongzhuang's face revealed an awkward expression, but in her heart, she hated that she couldn't kick this hypocritical face to the 9 heavens. What's not good about it? If I say it's okay, then it's okay. Xin Yuan Huan emphasized. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and hesitated. Okay, Hongzhuang, thank you for saving me. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would have died by now. Xin Yuan Huan smiled. Seeing Xin Yuan Huan directly climbing up the pole and calling her Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but roll her eyes. After walking through the gates of hell, this guy's face was getting thicker and thicker. The seniors of the Imperial Hospital are very capable. I just happen to see the same disease as you. Xin Yuan Huan didn't say much on this point, but turned to look at Godly Doctor Square. Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu were busy. The business of Godly Doctor Square was too good, and everyone was too busy. Hongzhuang, isn't it too hard for a girl like you to open this Godly Doctor Square on your own? Xin Yuan Huan probed. Before he came to godly Dr. Square, he had already made preparations to make Bailey Hongzhuang his woman. He believed that as long as he mentioned this idea, Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely jump into his arms without hesitation. After all, he was the crown prince, second only to one person. "It's all right," Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly. "Xiao Bai, do you think this guy's taken a liking to Master?" Xiao He asked. Bailey Hongzhuang hated Xianyuan Huan, so she didn't want to say anything to him. At this moment, she pretended to be busy with other things, obviously to make Xianyuan Huan feel bored and leave. She didn't think that Xianyuan Huan didn't realize this at all, and only followed Bailey Hongzhuang around. Wherever Bailey Hongzhuang went, he would follow. "I think so." Xiaobai nodded in agreement. "I wonder what Xianyuan Huan's expression will be when he finds out that Master is Bailey Hongzhuang. Haha, I'm looking forward to it." Xianyuan Huan was tired of following Bailey Hongzhuang around, so he stopped. "Hongzhuang, how about becoming my woman?" Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to answer, Xianyuan Huan continued. "As long as you become my woman, I promise you a life of wealth and honor. You won't have to do such hard work anymore." Chapter 43. Xianyuan Huan's face was intoxicated. After saying those words, he was almost moved by his own words. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow as she looked at the person behind Xianyuan Huan. The corners of her mouth slowly outlined a playful arc. "Xianyuan Huan, I heard that the person you love the most is the eldest daughter of the general's household, Bailey Yuyan." She still remembered the first day she crossed over. Xianyuan Huan confessed his feelings to Bailey Yuyan in front of her. It was really tit for tat. She didn't expect this scene to happen again. However, her and Bailey Yuyan's identities were switched. How ironic. "Hongzhuang, how can Bailey Yuyan be compared to you in my heart? My feelings for her are just a temporary interest. My feelings for you are true love." Xianyuan Huan answered without hesitation. His attitude was natural and sincere, as if the voice in his heart was unquestionable. "Your Highness, you—" A trembling and pained voice suddenly rang out. Bailey Yuyan's face was filled with pain as she watched the scene unfold before her. "How can you do this to me?" She didn't expect that the crown prince she missed so much would confess to another woman. He even degraded her in front of this woman. It turned out that in the crown prince's mind, she was just a toy he liked. Xianyuan Huan also didn't expect Bailey Yuyan to appear here. When he saw Bailey Yuyan's ugly face, his eyes were full of disgust. "What did I do to you? There is no relationship between you and me," Xianyuan Huan said without mercy. Bailey Yuyan and Bailey Hongzhuang were simply clouds and mud. Of course, he wouldn't make Bailey Yuyan unhappy for Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered at the good show in front of her. The degree of brilliance was beyond her expectations. "Crown Prince, didn't you say that the person you love the most is me?" Bailey Yuyan cried and hurried to Xianyuan Huan's side, wanted to hold his hand. Xianyuan Huan immediately took 2 steps back, the disgust in his eyes growing. "What nonsense are you talking about? Why don't you take a look at yourself? Do you think I'll like you?" With a tug of his right hand, Xianyuan Huan directly tore off Bailey Yuyan's veil, exposing her scarred face to the air. Wow! Everyone was in an uproar, and some even shouted that they had seen a ghost. After taking a closer look, the crowd finally confirmed that this ugly woman was Bailey Yuyan. "Look, how did Bailey Yuyan become like this? I don't know. She's so ugly. No wonder the crown prince doesn't like her. If you look like this, don't come out and scare people. Aren't you afraid of scaring children to tears?" Bailey Yuyan hurriedly picked up the veil to cover her face. Looking at the faces filled with disgust, her body couldn't help but tremble. Once upon a time, she was also a great beauty praised by everyone. Now, someone actually used the word ugly to describe her. This is Bailey Yuyan. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be surprised, but the depths of her dark eyes were filled with ice. Bailey Yuyan's pain at this moment was only 1,000th of what Bailey Hongzhuang suffered. Now, she'll let Bailey Yuyan have a taste of being ridiculed by everyone. After all, she had experienced it for 15 years. Xianyuan Huan nodded. "Hongzhuang, do you believe me now? With her appearance, how can I like her?" Chapter 44. Vigorous energy surged out, and Bailey Yuyin's face was filled with madness. She wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. She absolutely wouldn't allow anyone to steal her crown prince. Bailey Yuyin suddenly struck out with her palm. The swift and fierce wind from her palm caused a series of sonic booms. Her strength as a late-stage, mysterious Earth Realm cultivator was undoubtedly displayed. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes slightly narrowed. In a place where no one could see, she gave Bailey Yuyin a provocative smile. "You crazy woman, what are you doing here?" Xianyuan Huan's speed was even faster than Bailey Yuyin's. Just as Bailey Yuyin's attack was about to land on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, he fiercely punched Bailey Yuyin. Bang! A loud sound rang out. Bailey Yuyin's figure directly flew out and landed heavily on the ground. "Hongzhuang, are you all right?" Xianyuan Huan didn't even look at Bailey Yuyin on the ground as he hurriedly showed concern for Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and said, "Thank you." Hearing this, Xianyuan Huan smiled brightly and said, "It's good that you're all right. Vixen, I've been with His Highness for more than a year. He's mine." Bailey Yin crazily shouted, "How can you be so despicable?" When the surrounding people saw this scene, they all revealed expressions of interest. They had always known that Bailey Yuyin and Xianyuan Huan had a relationship. At this moment, seeing Bailey Yuyin call Bailey Hongzhuang a vixen, could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang also fell in love with the Crown Prince? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "Miss Bailey's words are really funny. If I'm despicable, then aren't you despicable to the extreme?" Bailey Yuyin was stunned. "What do you mean?" As everyone knows, Xianyuan Huan is the fiancée of Bailey Hongzhuang, the eldest daughter of the general's mansion. As the elder sister of Bailey Hongzhuang, you actually seduced her fiancé. If this isn't despicable, then what is? Bailey Hongzhuang had an enchanting smile at the corner of her mouth, but the words that came out of her mouth were overbearing. That was all the hatred accumulated by the fallen Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if she didn't have a good impression of Xianyuan Huan, the former Bailey Hongzhuang truly loved Xianyuan Huan. The elder sister that she trusted the most had snatched away the man that she loved the most, and had even forced her to commit suicide, putting on a show of affection in front of her. When Bailey Hongzhuang did this, she should have thought about the possibility of retribution. As soon as these words came out, Bailey Yuyin's face instantly turned pale. Although she did steal Xianyuan Huan from Bailey Hongzhuang, this matter had never been exposed. Now that it was exposed under the sun, everyone would see her despicable actions. How could she continue to live? His Highness the Crown Prince has already broken off the engagement with Hongzhuang. How could you say that I stole him? Bailey Yuyin was unwilling to give up and quibbled. She absolutely couldn't let her reputation be destroyed today. Her delicate and perfect face was full of undisguised ridicule. If you don't want people to know, then don't do it in the first place. The Crown Prince and Bailey Hongzhuang broke off the engagement within a month, but you clearly said that you and the Crown Prince have been together for more than a year. The warm voice was indifferent and alienated. This irrefutable evidence coming from Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth made Bailey Yuyin unable to refute. Bailey Yuyin's mouth twitched. She wanted to explain, but not a single word came out. Chapter 45. Even if everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's trash body wasn't good enough for Xianyuan Huan, Bailey Yuyin was still Bailey Hongzhuang's older sister. Stealing her younger sister's fiancé without any scruples was simply too unethical. I really didn't expect Bailey Yuyin to be such a person. I used to think of her as a goal to strive for. It's really disgusting. Bailey Hongzhuang is really pitiful to have such an elder sister. You may know a person for a long time without understanding their true nature. Everyone shook their heads and sighed. Bailey Yuyin's current appearance can be considered retribution. Under such gazes, Bailey Yuyin no longer has the courage to continue to stay here. Putting on her veil, she quickly ran outside. However, Xianyuan Huan did not show the slightest embarrassment. He is the Crown Prince. Who dares to say anything bad about him? What's more, it's normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. He is the dignified Crown Prince. In the future, he will definitely have 3,000 beauties in his harem. Hong Zhuang, are you willing to be my woman? Xian Yuan Huan asked with a face full of expectation. Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes were cold as she chuckled. Thank you, Crown Prince, for your kindness. I think it's more suitable for me to continue working in Godly Doctor Square. You dare to refuse me? Xian Yuan Huan was stunned. No one has ever dared to refuse his request. Why wouldn't I dare? Bailey Hong Zhuang chuckled. What she hated the most was Xian Yuan Huan's self-righteous face. Do you know that I am a crown prince? You dare to refuse me? Do you want to die? Xian Yuan Huan raised his voice. Being rejected by Bailey Hong Zhuang in front of so many people. Where will he put his face? So, Crown Prince wants to snatch a civilian girl? Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyebrows slightly raised. Her beautiful face did not have the slightest trace of fear, only indifference and confidence. It was as if she concluded that Xian Yuan Huan would not dare to do so. Xian Yuan Huan's expression froze. His life was saved by Bailey Hong Zhuang. Even his father appreciated Bailey Hong Zhuang very much. If he forcefully snatched Bailey Hong Zhuang back, he would definitely lose the support of the people. He absolutely cannot do that. For a moment, Xian Yuan Huan found that he really couldn't do anything to Bailey Hong Zhuang. After that day, Bailey Hong Zhuang enjoyed a month of peace. As time passed, the business of Godly Doctor Square did not slow down. On the contrary, it became more and more popular. Thanks to Godly Doctor Square, the inns in the city were always full of guests. Not only the inns and restaurants, but even the businesses of other industries were doing better and better. Therefore, everyone was very grateful to Bailey Hong Zhuang. The price of seeing a doctor in Godly Doctor Square was getting higher and higher, but all the rich people were still rushing like ducks, as if only by paying a large sum of money could they be cured. This was also one of Bailey Hong Zhuang's methods. Not only did she raise the price of seeing a doctor, she also sharply reduced the number of people who could see a doctor from 10 to 3. As a result, the competition became more and more intense. Many high-ranking officials and dignitaries were proud of being able to get a doctor in Godly Doctor Square. Others could not get a doctor, but they could. This proved that they were stronger than others. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hong Zhuang spent less and less time in Godly Doctor Square, but her income was getting higher and higher. With enough cultivation resources and her experience, Bailey Hong Zhuang's cultivation speed could be said to be unparalleled. On this day, news suddenly came from the palace. 3 days later, a banquet would be held in the palace's imperial garden. Every official could bring their female relatives to attend. Chapter 46. Xian Yuan Huan only had a concubine and no official consort. The original crown princess had already been deposed, so he should choose another woman to be the crown princess. In an instant, all the ministers began to rub their fists and prepare. As long as their own daughter or direct descendant was chosen by the crown prince to be the crown princess, they would become a phoenix flying up the branch and might even become the nation's mother in the future. The emperor had already issued an order. Among the courtiers, all unmarried daughters were to attend the banquet. Naturally, Bailey Hong Zhuang was included. After Bailey Hong Zhuang learned of this news, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but flash with interest. The crown prince was choosing a consort. As a deposed crown princess, if she went, wouldn't she be ridiculed by everyone? She didn't know what the emperor was thinking, but letting her witness Xian Yuan Huan's selection of the crown princess had its own meaning. Master, are you going to the selection banquet? Xiao He excitedly looked at the snacks in her mouth and didn't forget to ask Bailey Hong Zhuang for her thoughts. Bailey Hong Zhuang took a sip of tea, her delicate and elegant face rippling with a faint smile. Since the order has been given that everyone must go, I naturally have to go as well. Then wouldn't you be ridiculed? Xiao He bitterly said. It didn't want to see its master ridiculed by everyone. The deposed identity of the crown princess was too embarrassing. Hearing this, the curve of Bailey Hong Zhuang's mouth widened a bit, her eyebrows filled with pride and mockery. If I'm ridiculed, then Bailey Yuyin's situation should be more interesting, right? She was the deposed crown princess. This was something everyone had already guessed. From the day she was judged to be a waste, she was destined to not be the crown princess. Bailey Yin deliberately seduced Xianyuan Huan, but was later abandoned by him, which made it even more embarrassing. Moreover, I don't plan to go as Bailey Hongzhuang. Her ink-black eyes flashed with a bright light. It was time for her to show her true face. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were startled, their watery eyes widening with pleasant surprise. After waiting for so long, they finally waited for the day their master showed her true face. That's great. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was bright, but her hands gradually closed. Bailey Hongzhuang, I will help you take back all the humiliation and unwillingness you've suffered in the past. I will let everyone know that you're not a waste. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's indifference, Bailey Yuyan's heart. Right now, the last thing she wanted to do was go out and meet people, let alone watch Xianyuan Huan choose his crown princess at the selection banquet. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude towards her, Bailey Hongzhuang's father's, Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang zhuang zhuang huang zhuang huang he zhuang, 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 zhuang zhuang huang 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 huang. Bailey zhuang. If the crown prince doesn't want her, then no one will dare to marry her. How could she, a proud daughter of heaven, fall to such a state? She didn't want to go out to meet people. She just wanted to wait until everyone forgot about her. She didn't expect the selection banquet to ruin her plan. She had to go out, which annoyed her to the core. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The moon was high in the sky, and the cool breeze was like water. The daughters of the courtiers were all dressed up for tonight's selection banquet. Chapter 47. Both of his daughters were related to the crown prince. He originally thought that after Bailey Hongzhuang was abolished, he would think of a way to let Bailey Yuyan follow the crown prince. He never thought that the crown prince would actually humiliate Yuyan in front of everyone. Speaking of which, this matter was also Yuyan's responsibility. With her current appearance, not to mention the crown prince, it would be difficult for her to marry someone else. After this matter, he no longer had any good impression of the crown prince. This bastard was simply blinded by lust. When he did things, he didn't consider his status and actually made him a laughingstock. Father, can I not go? Bailey Yuyan softly probed. If she went today, it would be tantamount to asking for humiliation. She would definitely become the focus of everyone's ridicule. Hearing this, Bailey Jintao's face became even more gloomy. Imperial orders cannot be disobeyed. Could it be that you want to die? Bailey Yuyan's eyes instantly dimmed. It seemed that being ridiculed by everyone today was unavoidable. Su Wanjing's face revealed a worried expression. Bailey Yuyan had always been under her protection since she was young. Now that Yuyan was in such pain, her heart also ached. Lord, Yuyan is already very pitiful. Why do you have to be so fierce to her? If you didn't use every possible means to get close to the crown prince and not pay attention to your limits, how could you have fallen to such a state? Bailey Jintao was extremely angry. He had galloped on a battlefield for many years and was respected by everyone. He had never been laughed at before. However, because of his 2 daughters, he was almost unable to see anyone. Seeing that Bailey Jintao was angry at her, Su Wanjing couldn't help but turn pale. She had always been suppressed by Qin Yayun. Now, she didn't want Bailey Yuyan to be suppressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. What was wrong with that? However, she didn't dare to say these words out loud. Father, please don't be angry. When it's the royal hunting competition, I will definitely fight for you. Bailey Haoshuan's handsome face was filled with seriousness and determination. He wouldn't let others look down on the general's residence. Bailey Haoshuan was Bailey Yuyan's biological brother. He was younger than Bailey Hongzhuang by a year, but he was the general's most beloved son. Previously, he had been cultivating with his teacher and had only just returned today. Looking at Bailey Haoshuan's serious appearance, Bailey Jintao's eyes were filled with gratification. Although Bailey Yuyan had disappointed him, Bailey Haoshuan had never disappointed him. At the young age of 14, he had already reached the middle stage of the mysterious Earth realm. He was not far from the late stage of the mysterious Earth realm. Compared to Bailey Yuyan, Bailey Haoshuan's cultivation talent was even better. As long as Bailey Haoshuan performed well in the royal hunting competition, all of this was nothing. After all, the Shengxian continent valued strength the most. You're the sensible one. Bailey Haoxuan's expression eased a bit as he patted Bailey Haoxuan's shoulder with a faint smile. Bailey Haoxuan's eyes sparkled and a smile spread across his face. He said, "Father, what about Bailey Hongzhuang? Will she enter the palace with us?" Speaking of Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Jintao's eyes filled with disgust. As long as this girl was mentioned, he would not be in a good mood. No need. Bailey Jintao's voice was cold. We'll enter the palace together later. Prepare a sedan and let her go by herself. Okay, I'll arrange it. Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't surprised to hear that Bailey Jintao and the rest would enter the palace first. Bailey Jintao had always disliked her, and this wasn't the first time he had done this. It just so happened that she wasn't willing to enter the palace with his family. Chapter 48. After dressing up properly, Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the elegant Daylily Pavilion in a grand manner and walked towards the general's estate's main door. When the servants saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they all widened their eyes in shock and disbelief. Who is this lady? Why is she in the estate? I just saw her walk out of the elegant Daylily Pavilion. Could she be the second miss? What kind of joke is this? The second miss is blind. I think this lady looks like Miss Hongzhuang from Godly Doctor Square. The servants were all very confused, but no one stopped Bailey Hongzhuang. One look at this lady, and they could tell that her identity was not ordinary. If they stopped her, wouldn't they be courting death? However, when Bailey Hongzhuang saw the sedan prepared for her at the entrance, her pretty face was covered with ridicule, because, in her line of sight, there was only a sedan and no sedan bearers. They didn't want her to attend the selection banquet at all. How despicable! Xiaohei's face was colored with anger. Master, should we go and find a few sedan bearers? At this moment, a series of footsteps gradually came from afar. Looking over, an extremely luxurious sedan was slowly approaching. Bailey Hongzhuang was not surprised. This should also be a sedan heading towards the palace, but she didn't know which courtier it was. Wife, it looks like you won't be able to enter the palace. Why don't we go together? A warm and smiling voice suddenly came from the sedan, filled with teasing and familiarity. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. She saw Di Beichen lift the curtain and look at her with a smile. Sure. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled. Obviously, Di Beichen already knew her identity, which was why he wasn't surprised to see her now. Thinking back to when she first met Di Beichen, she only felt that Di Beichen was not simple, so she didn't want to have too much contact with him. However, even if she didn't want to, they had already met many times. Although this fellow's words were always frivolous, she could tell that Di Beichen didn't have any ill intentions toward her. As for Di Beichen's secrets, she wasn't prepared to investigate. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang agree so readily, a trace of surprise appeared in Di Beichen's eyes. It looked like his wife was also a smart person. It wasn't until Bailey Hongzhuang got on the sedan chair that He Mu scratched his head in confusion. Usually, whenever Miss Bailey saw the young lord, she couldn't help but jump up and down. When did their relationship become so harmonious? It seems that your days in the general's mansion are not good, Di Beichen said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. Everyone thinks that you, a crippled prince, have a hard time, but in reality, aren't you free and unfettered? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's, Bailey Hongzhuang is. Bailey's is Bailey's. If that's the case, Bailey Hongzhuang and I are kindred spirits. If you weren't so shameless, perhaps you would be. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were smiling. After confirming that Di Beichen didn't have any ill intentions towards her, their relationship has become much more natural. Entering the palace like this today, I'm afraid there will be a lot of discussion. You have to be careful not to anger the emperor. Di Beichen's voice suddenly became heavy and serious. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. Is this guy worried about me? Chapter 49. Her inky black eyes stared at Di Beichen's eyes that were as deep as the ocean. She found that she really couldn't see through Di Beichen. The palanquin suddenly fell into silence. The two of them looked at each other, as if they wanted to see through each other's thoughts. Suddenly, Di Beichen's body approached Bailey Hongzhuang, closing the distance between the two of them in an instant. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly retreated, a trace of anger appearing on her face. In that instant, her lips had clearly touched Di Beichen's face. "Wife, if you look at me so affectionately, I won't be able to resist." As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere seemed to become ambiguous. Di Beichen's eyes held a smile, but Bailey Hongzhuang clearly saw the seriousness in his eyes. Shameless. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head away. She was ashamed of her inferiority to this guy's shamelessness. He Mu only heard the word shameless come from the palanquin, and his mind couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. Could it be that young master did something he shouldn't do to Miss Bailey? No way, no way, how could it be? As soon as this thought appeared, He Mu slapped his own head. I must be thinking too much. Imperial Garden. Colorful flowers bloomed enchantingly, and the air was filled with a rich floral fragrance. Fine wine and delicacies had already been prepared, and an elegant and luxurious atmosphere filled the entire Imperial Garden. However, the most attractive thing wasn't the fresh flowers and fine wine, but the youthful beauties shuttling through the garden. The young ladies of each family had clearly been carefully dressed in order to present their best side in front of Xianyuan Huan today. The courtiers gathered in twos and threes to exchange greetings, and the madams of each family had smiles on their faces, discussing whose hairstyle looked better. The emperor has arrived. The empress has arrived. The crown prince has arrived. A sharp and delicate voice suddenly rang out, and everyone stopped talking, respectfully standing in place. A bright yellow figure slowly walked over, surrounded by many other figures. The empress and the crown prince were on the emperor's two sides. Xianyuan Yutian was wearing a dragon robe. He was in the prime of his life, and one could vaguely see his youthful handsomeness. A heavenly aura filled the air, causing the Imperial Garden to instantly feel a bit more pressure. The empress was wearing a red peony dress that made her look noble and elegant, and her beautiful and dignified face even more beautiful. Xianyuan Huan wore a light yellow robe with the head of his hair. His outstanding figure and outstanding appearance, he attracted the gazes of most of the women present. Greetings to the emperor, empress, your highness. Emperor Xianyuan Yutian raised his hand and said with a smile on his face, "Rise. Today is a family banquet. Everyone, drink to your heart's content. No need to be reserved. Thank you, your majesty. I believe everyone knows the purpose of the emperors. Emus, S's, the crowns, her, the hers beautiful, hers, hers right, her to her, his." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's eyes lit up. They had been waiting for this day. The youthful women present shyly looked at Xianyuan Huan. Their charming faces flushed red, and their hearts were filled with anticipation. The crown prince's consort. That was the dream of many women. Compared to the joy of the courtiers, Bailey Jintao's face was cold. The crown prince's consort selection had nothing to do with him. Chapter 50. Bailey Jintao frowned. The emperor and empress had already arrived, but Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to be late. Bailey Haoxuan had a puzzled expression. I don't know, but I'm afraid she didn't want to come. Nonsense. Bailey Jintao's face was filled with anger. The emperor's order is difficult, so how could she not come? Bailey Hongzhuang was the one who received the most attention in today's crown prince consort selection. If it had nothing to do with her, then it would be fine if no one noticed. But now, almost everyone was looking for Bailey Hongzhuang. If the emperor asked, then wouldn't it be over? Sure enough, just as Bailey Jintao was worrying, Prime Minister Li Chengxian asked, General Bailey, how come I haven't seen Bailey Hongzhuang today? Li Chengxian and Bailey Jintao's relationship had always been bad. Today was a great opportunity to humiliate Bailey Jintao, so he naturally wouldn't let it go. Bailey Jintao's face sank. This Li Chengxian just liked to find trouble. Seeing Bailey Jintao's unsightly expression, the smile on Li Chengxian's face grew even wider. Bailey Hongzhuang shouldn't have not come today, right? Bailey Jintao and Li Chengxian were both high-ranking ministers, so when the two of them talked, there were many people who were concerned. Speaking of Bailey Hongzhuang, Everyone began to look for her in the imperial garden. Until now, they hadn't seen Bailey Hongzhuang at all. Suddenly, the noisy imperial garden miraculously quieted down. Everyone looked at the two figures slowly walking over from afar, and their eyes were filled with amazement and doubt. They saw Di Beichun wearing a light golden robe. His handsome face was outlined with a faint smile and an aura as indifferent as the wind spread out. It was like a wisp of cool breeze in the forest, causing people to have wild and fanciful thoughts. Even though he was sitting in a wheelchair, his back was still straight, and the noble aura that came from his bones didn't lose out to anyone present. From the moment he appeared, he seemed to emit an infinite radiance, attracting everyone's attention. However, what was even more stunning was the white figure beside Di Beichun. The woman wore white clothes that outlined her curvaceous figure. Her fine black hair was tied up casually, and it revealed a carefree and unrestrained aura. Her beautiful face, without any makeup, was exquisite and beautiful. Her eyebrows were like jade feathers. Her skin was white as snow. Her waist was like a bundle of silk, and her pair of phoenix eyes that were like colored glass flickered with a resplendent brilliance. Even standing next to the most handsome man in the imperial city, Di Beichun, she didn't pale in comparison. People couldn't help but sigh. What a peerless beauty! For a long time, everyone had exclaimed that with Di Beichun's peerless appearance, there was probably no woman who could be compared to him. Who would have thought that one would appear now? Hongzhuang? Isn't that miracle Dr. Hongzhuang? No one knew who was the first to exclaim, but everyone's eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that Miracle Doctor Square was famous, there wasn't a single person in the imperial city who didn't know about Miracle Doctor Square. Naturally, they all knew about Miracle Dr. Hongzhuang. With one look, everyone was certain that this woman was Miracle Dr. Hongzhuang, without a doubt. However, why would Hongzhuang come with Di Beichun? Most importantly, how could Hongzhuang attend tonight's banquet? Bailey Yuyin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who had stunned everyone present, and her eyes were filled with hatred. If it wasn't for this woman, she wouldn't have fallen to her current state. All of this was thanks to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, this woman dared to openly appear at the selection banquet. Chapter 51. Ever since Hongzhuang had rejected him that day, he had never seen Hongzhuang again, but he had never let go of her in his heart. Perhaps it was because no woman had ever rejected him in all these years. Or perhaps it was because Hongzhuang was too charming, but he had always been obsessed with her these past few days. Today's Bailey Hongzhuang was even more enchanting after dressing up. The young miss from an official's family that he originally thought was pretty good had lost all her brilliance in an instant. In his eyes, there was only Hongzhuang left. The women who were originally trying to attract Xinyuan Huan's attention saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had stolen all their limelight, and their faces became ugly. Today is His Highness the Crown Prince's selection banquet. What is this Hongzhuang doing here? Voices of jealousy mixed with dissatisfaction quietly spread out. Many people knew that Hongzhuang had rejected Xinyuan Huan. Could it be that Hongzhuang had changed her mind? Bailey Yin directly stood up and said, Hongzhuang, this is the imperial banquet. You're not an official's daughter. How can you come here? As soon as these words came out, all eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Even the emperor and empress in the distance had noticed the movements in this area. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth hooked up into an enchanting smile. It was less elegant and more enchanting. Elder sister, don't you recognize me? The faint and cold voice had a trace of ridicule. Bailey Hongzhuang only stared at Bailey Yuyin. She also wanted to appreciate Bailey Yuyin's expression. Hearing this familiar voice, Bailey Yuyin looked like she had seen a ghost. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. You are? I am Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, her voice firm and unquestionable. I am Bailey Hongzhuang. She openly told everyone about her true identity. Everyone stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang. This name was not unfamiliar to them at all. The deposed crown princess, the miss of the general's estate, the trash that couldn't cultivate. Under the shroud of these titles, Bailey Hongzhuang was a joke in everyone's eyes, a pitiful worm that many people pitied. But looking at the dazzling figure in front of them, no one could connect the two together. Impossible. How can you be Bailey Hongzhuang? Bailey Yuyin's eyes widened in shock. Her heart was filled with horror, and she couldn't even care about her image. Compared to Bailey Yuyin's loss of self-control, Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent and calm, her every movement elegant. Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that I'm standing in front of you, you can't even recognize me. That's really heartbreaking. Bailey Hongzhuang had a smile on her face. She spoke the bloody truth, but her indifferent expression made it seem as if she wasn't the one involved at all. The audience was in an uproar. Everyone had forgotten what they were doing. They were all immersed in Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang. So this Hongzhuang miss is the legitimate daughter of the general's estate. Everyone suddenly understood. They only thought that Hongzhuang's name sounded familiar, but they never thought that there was such a connection between the two. Bailey Hongzhuang said that Bailey Yuyin poisoned her and made her blind. Chapter 52. Bailey Jintao, Su Jingwan, and Bailey Haoshuan were all stunned. Looking at the beautiful face in front of them, they clearly felt a trace of familiarity. Although they were extremely unwilling to admit it, they knew very well that this woman was most likely Bailey Hongzhuang, because whether it was her voice or appearance, she was exactly the same as Bailey Hongzhuang. The only difference was her temperament. Two completely different temperaments. Bailey Yin's expression was extremely ugly. She simply couldn't accept the reality in front of her. She always thought that what she did was flawless. If the woman in front of her was really Bailey Hongzhuang, then didn't that mean that everything she did had already been seen through by Bailey Hongzhuang? It was because of this that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to take revenge on her. She snatched Xianyuan Huan from her and even announced what she did to the world. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, who else would be so clear about what happened between them? Xianyuan Huan was also stunned at this moment. He had clearly tested and confirmed that Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang had no relationship. He didn't expect that the two of them were the same person. How could Bailey Hongzhuang change so much? He had seen Bailey Hongzhuang several times before. She had always been ugly and submissive, so he couldn't arouse the slightest bit of interest in her. However, how could the radiant woman not far away be the Bailey Hongzhuang he hated? It was absolutely impossible for a person to change so much in such a short time. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had always been in disguise? Thinking of this, Xianyuan Huan's expression became extremely ugly. It was reasonable to say that Bailey Hongzhuang had no need to disguise herself. Then, there was only one reason. She didn't want to marry him. Thinking back to when he confessed to Bailey Hongzhuang and how she rejected him without hesitation, it turned out that the person he had always hated him the most. She hated him, so she made herself look so unbearable. Xianyuan Yutian and Jiang Jining looked at each other with a trace of doubt in their eyes. This peerlessly beautiful woman in front of him was the deposed crown princess Bailey Hongzhuang. Why was it so different from what they remembered? General Bai Li, what's going on? Isn't she blind? Xianyuan Yutian's voice deepened. He had heard that Bailey Hongzhuang had lost her sight, which was why he had called off the engagement. However, the woman in front of him clearly did not match the description. Cold sweat dripped from Bailey Jintao's forehead as he hurriedly replied. Replying to your majesty, Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed blind before, but she was cured later on. For a moment, Bailey Jintao could only use such words. In fact, even he himself didn't know what had happened. Cured, Xianyuan Yutian frowned. Then why didn't you say anything? This humble subject only just found out. Bailey Jintao was drenched in cold sweat. If he didn't answer this question properly, then he would be guilty of deceiving the monarch. General, this godly Dr. Square opened a month ago. Why did you only find out today? Li Chengqian asked. Bailey Jintao had already cursed Li Chengqian's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. He said, Bailey Hongzhuang had always hidden it from us, so I also didn't know. Seeing that Bailey Jintao didn't seem to be quibbling, Xianyuan Yutian didn't say anything even though he was displeased. After all, he understood Bailey Jintao's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 53. Bailey Jintao nodded again and again. He kept thinking about how to explain this to the emperor. The most important thing was that he himself didn't know. The selection banquet continued. The empress suggested that all the talented girls come out one by one to perform. Only then did the previous awkwardness disappear. Bailey Hongzhuang leisurely tasted the snacks of the imperial family. The palace maids and eunuchs shuttled back and forth between the banquet, presenting the delicious snacks one by one. The black and white furballs saw this scene as if they were injected with chicken blood, saliva almost dripping down. Bailey Hongzhuang was clearly in a good mood. After telling the two little guys not to go too far, she let them play. Di Beichun sat beside Bailey Hongzhuang and chuckled. "You're not worried at all? What do you think of Bailey Jintao's position in Fengbo country?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and put another grape into her mouth. Deeply rooted, Di Beichun smiled. With just one sentence, he already understood Bailey Hongzhuang's meaning. Because of Bailey Jintao galloping on the battlefield, Fengbo country was so peaceful. Currently, Bailey Jintao was the most suitable general to lead the troops. So, Xinyuan Yutian considered the overall situation and wouldn't do anything to Bailey Jintao. Although Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't close to Bailey Jintao, she was still his daughter. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang's life wouldn't be in danger. "You've made a good plan, but Bailey Yuyan is going to be miserable." Following Di Beichun's line of sight, Bailey Yuyan was surrounded by a group of girls. Even from far away, he could still vaguely hear their mocking voices. "You sympathize with her?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She didn't feel that Bailey Yuyan was miserable at all. This was the first time she tasted the taste of being mocked. And she had always lived in this kind of environment. Even though Bailey Yuyan had a bad reputation now, the general's residence had never mistreated her. But what about her? Eating one meal and then eating another. Any servant could bully her head. In comparison, Bailey Yuyan was much better off. Di Beichun shook his head. "I don't sympathize with her." Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. She thought that everyone would think that Bailey Yuyan was in a very miserable situation, but Di Beichun had a different opinion. "But my heart aches for you," Di Beichun said seriously. When he confirmed Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, he also learned about Bailey Hongzhuang's past life. It was hard to imagine that this proud woman in front of him had lived in such an environment. No wonder she didn't sympathize with Bailey Yuyan. If it was him, he would be even more heartless. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression froze. This was the first time she saw the seriousness in Di Beichun's eyes. She didn't know what to do and could only pretend that nothing happened and continue to watch the performance. "Wife, are these grapes delicious?" Di Beichun asked teasingly. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the fruit plate. She had almost eaten all the grapes and was grabbing the empty plate. "Not bad." Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be calm. Di Beichun smiled dotingly and put the fruit plate in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. "Since you like it, eat more." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichun and then continued to eat the grapes. Actually, the grapes tasted really good. "Bailey Hongzhuang, what tricks are you playing?" Chapter 54. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang for the first time today, he was also shocked. However, after thinking about it carefully, he understood that it was all because of Bailey Hongzhuang that his sister had fallen into such a situation. This woman really made him feel disgusted from the bottom of his heart. "What tricks do I play have to do with you?" Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. Since young, Bailey Haoxuan had been at odds with her. She had clearly done nothing, but Bailey Haoxuan had tried to harm her. If Bailey Yuyan was said to be evil, then Bailey Haoxuan was said to be ruthless. Bailey Haoxuan's face was gloomy. He gritted his teeth and said, "You treated my sister like this today. I will definitely not let you off." As he spoke, Bailey Haoxuan raised his wine glass and splashed it at Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face turned cold. Just as she was about to dodge, Di Beichun was one step ahead of her. He opened his folding fan and blocked all the wine. Bailey Haoxuan looked at Di Beichun with an ashen face. Could it be that Di Beichun had some relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang? Otherwise, why would he help Bailey Hongzhuang? Whoosh! While Bailey Haoxuan was puzzled, Bailey Hongzhuang had already poured the entire pot of wine on Bailey Haoxuan's head. Drip, drip. The wine dripped down Bailey Haoxuan's face and onto the ground, making a crisp sound. The originally handsome Bailey Haoxuan had become a drowned rat in an instant. At this moment, he was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. All this time, only he had bullied Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang had never dared to resist. What had happened to Bailey Hongzhuang recently? Everything he did was completely different from before. With a playful smile, Bailey Hongzhuang whispered into Bailey Haoxuan's ear, "Now it's not you who won't let me go. It's me who won't let you go. I won't let you off." The pleasant voice was bewitching and threatening. Bailey Haoxuan felt as if he could feel Bailey Hongzhuang's aura, but the chill in her words gave him an ominous premonition. "Bailey Hongzhuang, so what if I'm not blind anymore? You're still a piece of trash, unable to withstand a single blow." Bailey Haoxuan forcibly wiped away the chill in his heart and spoke in a tough and domineering tone. Bailey Hongzhuang stood back with a smile on her pretty face. She only said word by word, "I'll wait." "Umph." Bailey Haoxuan snorted coldly and left in a huff. He did not believe that this trash could do anything. After the banquet, Bailey Hongzhuang would be in trouble. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, Di Beichun said with a smile, "You've offended all the people in the general's mansion. If you go back to the general's mansion, you'll be in danger. Since I've come out today, I don't intend to go back to the general's mansion." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. Even if she told Bailey Jintao that she was no longer a piece of trash, Bailey Jintao would not treat her differently. She had already given up on Bailey Jintao long ago. Di Beichun's smile widened a little. "If you have nowhere to go, my wife, you're always welcome in Prince Chen's mansion." Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. Every time this guy was serious, he would reveal his true colors. Just as the two were talking, the performance was over. Empress Jiang Jinying smiled and asked Xin Yuan Huan's opinion. "Huan do you have anyone you like?" Today's consort selection was not only for the crown princess, but also for Xin Yuan Huan to choose several people to serve him. Therefore, Xin Yuan Huan could choose by himself. Chapter 55. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Xin Yuan Huan's body. All the women were looking at Xin Yuan Huan expectantly, hoping that their performance would attract Xin Yuan Huan's attention. Even Bailey Yuyan couldn't help but look forward to it. She still remembered the words that Xin Yuan Huan had said to her. She only hoped that Xin Yuan Huan could still remember them. "I want her." Xin Yuan Huan stretched out his finger and pointed at a woman in front of him. Bailey Hongzhuang was bored to death talking to Di Beichun. In this banquet, the only person she was familiar with was Di Beichun. It just so happened that this guy didn't fit in here, so they stayed in this corner and ate very comfortably. However, suddenly, everyone found that everyone's eyes were fixed on her. Looking up, the person Xin Yuan Huan was pointing at was her, Bailey Hongzhuang. Xin Yuan Huan slowly said. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, his eyes could no longer move away. He didn't understand why Bailey Hongzhuang had such a big change, but he just couldn't forget it. Just now, when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun talking happily, he felt a burst of unhappiness in his heart. No matter what, he wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to be his woman. When everyone saw that Xin Yuan Huan had chosen Bailey Hongzhuang, their expressions became funny. Bailey Hongzhuang was the crown princess who had just been deposed not long ago. Moreover, Xin Yuan Huan had been asking for so many years to successfully cancel the engagement. Now, Xin Yuan Huan wanted Bailey Hongzhuang. Wasn't this a joke? Bailey Yin looked at Xin Yuan Huan in amazement. She couldn't believe that Xin Yuan Huan would choose Bailey Hongzhuang. After hearing this answer, Xin Yuan Yutian and Jiang Jinying's faces became ugly. Of all the women present, Xin Yuan Huan could choose anyone, but the only one he couldn't choose was Bailey Hongzhuang. No, Xin Yuan Yutian's voice was majestic and irresistible. A monarch's words were not a joke. The engagement was canceled by him. So how could he make Bailey Hongzhuang the crown princess? Now, no matter how outstanding Bailey Hongzhuang was, Xin Yuan Huan and Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be together. Xian Yuan Huan's expression changed. Looking at Xian Yuan Yutian's dignified, intense face, he was about to say something, but was stopped by Jiang Jinying. Huaner, don't make a fuss. Jinying lowered her voice. Imperial Mother, I only want Bailey Hongzhuang. Xian Yuan Huan emphasized. Jiang Jinying frowned slightly. There's so many people here now. You dare to contradict your father. Don't you want the position of crown prince anymore? Xian Yuan Yutian was already displeased when Xian Yuan Huan insisted on canceling the engagement. Now that he wanted to set another engagement, no matter what, it was impossible. Hearing Jiang Jinying's words, Xian Yuan Huan couldn't help but be startled. Looking at Xian Yuan Yutian's sharp eyes, he could only shut his mouth and didn't say anything else. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she didn't have to stand up for this problem. Xian Yuan Huan's brain was really damaged. After that, Xian Yuan Huan was like a frosted eggplant, letting Jiang Jinying make the decision to help him choose the crown princess. If he couldn't get Bailey Hongzhuang today, then he didn't care about any other woman. Seeing that Xian Yuan Huan was obedient, Jiang Jinying was relieved. It was just a woman. She absolutely couldn't let the emperor have a problem with Huan because of this. Chapter 56. Regardless of background, appearance, or talent, Li Yuyue was a perfect match for Xian Yuan Huan. Li Chengxian smiled as he accepted the decree with Li Yuyue. Originally, his status was equal to Bailey Jintao's, but now that his daughter was the crown princess, Bailey Jintao's status would be incomparable to his in the future. Thank you, Your Majesty. Li Chengxian's face was full of smiles as he looked at Bailey Jintao provocatively. Bailey Jintao's face was livid. This Li Chengxian was really hateful. At a glance, Li Chengxian happened to see Di Beichun sitting next to Bailey Hongzhuang and suddenly had a plan. Your Majesty, today is a good day for His Highness the Crown Prince to choose his consort. It just so happens that Prince Chun is not young anymore and is still unmarried. Why don't we take advantage of this opportunity to set a marriage? His Highness the Crown Prince actually pointed out that he wanted Bailey Hongzhuang. This was not a good thing for Yuyue. Hearing this, Xian Yuan Yutian inquired, Prime Minister Li, do you have a candidate in mind? Bailey Hongzhuang, the legitimate daughter of the general's estate. What does Your Majesty think? Xian Yuan Yutian's eyes revealed a thoughtful look. Di Beichun was still unmarried, and it seemed that he would not leave Fengbo. Setting a marriage for him might not be a bad thing. Jiang Jinying's eyes lit up. Prime Minister Li's candidate is very good. Your Majesty, I think Bailey Hongzhuang and Prince Chun are very compatible. What do you think? She could not let Xian Yuan Huan's position be threatened. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang was engaged, Xian Yuan Huan would naturally give up. Xian Yuan Huan's eyes widened. Imperial Mother actually proposed to let Bailey Hongzhuang marry Di Beichun? That's good. Then I approve. Xian Yuan Yutian laughed heartily and waved his hand to approve this matter. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other, as if they could not believe that the two of them had set a marriage contract in an instant. Bailey Jintao's expression darkened. The emperor didn't even look at him before deciding on this engagement. It was clear that the emperor was extremely displeased with today's matter. For him, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have any meaning. Since the emperor wanted her to marry, then she would marry. In any case, such a piece of trash might not be able to get married, even if she stayed at home. Bailey Yuyan's eyes sparkled with excitement when she heard the news. So what if Bailey Hongzhuang was in the limelight today? In the end, she still had to marry a crippled prince. Everyone knew that although Di Beichun was a prince, he was not valued by the emperor. If she followed him, there would be no hope for her in this lifetime. A blind man and a cripple, what a perfect match. Bailey Haoxuan sneered. It seemed that he no longer needed to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. Marrying Di Beichun, this punishment was much worse than the others. This Hongzhuang girl is really pitiful. Previously, she was poisoned blind by Bailey Yuyan and lost her position as the crown princess. Now, she is betrothed to Prince Chun. Although Prince Chun is handsome, he is still a cripple. Bailey Hongzhuang's life is ruined. Wife, it seems that you are destined to be my woman for the rest of your life. Di Beichun raised his eyebrows and smiled. I've never liked Li Chengxian, but today I kind of like him. Heimu looked at Di Beichun in astonishment. When the emperor announced that Di Beichun was going to be married, he felt that something was wrong. He did not expect that the young master would not react at all. Could it be that he accepted it just like that? Was this still the young master he had followed for so long? Chapter 57. Heimu only felt that his mind was in a mess, unable to accept the change in front of him. When he first came to Fengbo country, Xinyuan Yutian had suggested marriage, but young master had rejected it without hesitation. Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her lips. She did not expect such a thing to happen at the banquet. So, there is no other way to solve this matter? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked, "You want to defy the imperial edict?" Di Beichun raised his eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a devilish smile. "No." Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "It doesn't matter who I marry. If I marry you, at least this face will be pleasing to the eye, although you are a bit poor." A faint smile spread across her sparkling, jade-like face. She understood that today's matter, whether it was the emperor or the empress, they were very unhappy with her. Even if she did not marry Di Beichun, they would think of other reasons to deal with her. Coincidentally, she did not have a place to rest. This Qin palace was not bad. Bailey Hongzhuang received the imperial edict. Under the sympathetic and mocking gazes of the crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang calmly received the imperial edict. Turning around, a proud smile was reflected on her face. Bailey Hongzhuang's calmness was beyond everyone's expectations. From the identity of the crown princess to the princess consort of the crippled prince, the difference was not small. Everyone thought that in this situation, Bailey Hongzhuang would be extremely sad, but from the beginning to the end, no one saw any negative emotions on her face. Putting away the imperial edict, Bailey Hongzhuang proudly walked back to her original position. She was still talking cheerfully and wittily, but it made everyone look at each other. This fellow is just putting up a strong front. Who doesn't know that her life is over? Bailey Yuyan sneered. She just could not stand Bailey Hongzhuang's noble and proud appearance, as if no one could enter her eyes. "Sister, after the banquet is over, we'll teach her a lesson." Bailey Haoshuan comforted Bailey Yuyan, his dark eyes flashing with a malicious light. Whoever dared to make his sister unhappy, he would definitely make them suffer even more. A smile appeared on Bailey Yuyan's face, and the look in her eyes became even more vicious. "Haoshuan, this time, we must make Bailey Hongzhuang pay the price." In the past, Bailey Hongzhuang was very silly and naive. She only liked to watch the former make a fool of herself. The one who really taught her a lesson was Bailey Haoshuan. Since both sides had already shed all pretenses of cordiality, she definitely wouldn't be polite. She actually dared to steal His Highness the Crown Prince's heart. She would definitely let this trash taste the feeling of living a life worse than death. "Wife, we're going to get married soon. When do you think we should send the betrothal gifts?" With a playful smile on his handsome face, Di Beichun raised his eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Xinyuan Yutian had long wanted to arrange a marriage for him, but he had never been interested in other women. However, this person was Bailey Hongzhuang, so he didn't want to refuse. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, her phoenix eyes filled with disdain. "You're just a pauper who can't even take out 100 gold coins. What betrothal gifts can you give me?" "Wife, it's not right for you to say that." His eyes, which were as deep as the sea, flickered with a serious light. "To be my wife, Di Beichun, you must be glorious." Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. Di Beichun spoke so seriously that it almost gave her an illusion. Chapter 58. While Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were talking, Bailey Yuyan slowly walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. That scarred face had a mocking smile. "Good little sister, I really have to congratulate you. You failed to seduce the crown prince, and now you're going to marry a crippled prince. Ha ha." Bailey Yuyan raised her head and laughed as her eyes focused on Bailey Hongzhuang. "However, the crown prince has never been a match for someone like you. On the other hand, this crippled prince is a perfect match for you." Bailey Hongzhuang slightly knit her brows. She didn't care about Bailey Yuyan mocking her, but Bailey Yuyin poking at Di Beichen's pain was a bit too much. Di Beichen probably still didn't know that his legs were crippled because of his cursed body. If it was any other teenager that encountered this kind of thing, they wouldn't feel good. This was the wound in his heart. Bailey Yuyin, what does it have to do with you who I marry? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. Instead of putting all your thoughts on me, why don't you think about how to heal the scars on your face, ugly? Hearing the word ugly, Bailey Yuyin seemed to have been caught in a sore spot as she quickly jumped up in a panic. You don't need to worry about my face. You can follow this cripple for the rest of your life. Bailey Yuyin angrily said, Miss Bailey, this one's legs are crippled, and I really don't deserve Hongzhuang. Di Beichen suddenly spoke as his handsome face revealed an elegant and charming smile. Bailey Yuyin was slightly stunned. Looking at that exceptionally perfect face, she couldn't help but be dazed. If Di Beichen wasn't crippled, then he must be a peerless talent. Even if she wholeheartedly admired Di Beichen, she couldn't help but admit that Di Beichen was truly handsome and didn't seem like a mortal. Hearing Di Beichen say that he wasn't worthy of Bailey Hongzhuang, a strange feeling rose in Bailey Yuyin's heart. This Di Beichen wouldn't really like Bailey Hongzhuang, right? This wasn't something she wanted to see. However, Di Beichen's next words made Bailey Yuyin's expression become extremely ugly. Hongzhuang marrying this prince is a grievance. But Miss Bailey, with your face alone, I'm afraid that no matter who you marry, you're climbing the social class. Originally, when Di Beichen suddenly spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. At this moment, listening to his words, she couldn't help but laugh. Her beautiful face was filled with a deep smile, like the most beautiful flower in the imperial garden, making people unable to look away. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Di Beichen a thumbs up. This fellow's poisonous tongue wasn't something normal people could compare to. Bailey Yuyin stood there in a daze. Her brain couldn't wrap itself around the situation. Di Beichen had always been refined and courteous, so how could he say such words to her? Bailey Yuyin's proud face was like a frosted eggplant, turning from red to green, then from green to black. She bit her red lips, her body trembling uncontrollably. If it wasn't for the fact that this wasn't the right place, she really wanted to teach these two a lesson. You wait. I won't let you off. Bailey Yuyin's eyes turned red. She hated Di Beichen as well. Bailey Hongzhuang, as long as you return to the general's residence tonight, I definitely won't let you off. Chapter 59. The cold voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. Di Beichen stared into Bailey Yuyin's eyes, and a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from him. Looking at those eyes that were as deep as the ocean, Bailey Yuyin clearly knew that Di Beichen was not joking. The killing intent that filled the air made her heart turn cold. At this moment, she finally understood that this crippled prince's cultivation was not weak at all. Why? What was so good about Bailey Hongzhuang? Why was Di Beichen protecting her like this? They only had an engagement today. Before, Bailey Hongzhuang had seduced Xianyuan Huan. Bailey Yuyin was filled with confusion. Bailey Hongzhuang had clearly refuted Xianyuan Huan's face, but Xianyuan Huan still wanted to marry her. What part of her was inferior to this waste? Seeing Di Beichen's actions, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes gradually changed. He was protecting her. Her mind couldn't help but recall the words Di Beichen had said to her. My heart aches for you. When she first met Di Beichen, she only felt that Di Beichen was a pitiful worm that could be bullied by others. After saving him, she felt that this fellow was simply a shameless scoundrel. But now that she saw Di Beichen protecting her, she felt an indescribable feeling. Her heart was touched. In her previous life, after her parents died, she was the heavens of her family. She endured all the pressure for her family. In this life, she had been bullied by everyone, and no one had ever stood in front of her. No one had even said a word for her. However, at this moment, there was a figure protecting her. Under this murderous aura, Bailey Yuyin felt a chill run from her back to her head, making her feel as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. Bailey Yuyin, the price of angering a cripple is not something you can bear. Di Beichen withdrew his murderous aura as if nothing had happened. A warm and charming smile once again appeared on his face. Bailey Yuyin no longer thought that Di Beichun was a piece of trash without any ability to resist. She almost couldn't breathe from the other party's murderous aura. After Bailey Yin left stiffly, Di Beichun's smile became a little more evil. Wife, wasn't your husband's performance just now very brave? I've completely charmed you. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichun speechlessly. This guy was really good at ruining the atmosphere. How could her heart be touched by such a guy just now? It must be because Bailey Hongzhuang's original personality had a great influence on her after she transmigrated. Yes, that must be it. Not long after, Xinyuan Yuqian called Di Beichun away. Bailey Hongzhuang felt bored, so she went to play in the Imperial Garden. The Imperial Garden was indeed extraordinary. Many precious flowers and plants appeared here, competing to bloom. It was very beautiful. There were many young women admiring the flowers, but no one had any thoughts of getting close to Bailey Hongzhuang. Thus, after walking for a while, there was no one near Bailey Hongzhuang. Why did you lie to me? Xinyuan Huan appeared behind Bailey Hongzhuang, his voice low and hoarse, filled with dissatisfaction and depression. The inexplicable voice startled Bailey Hongzhuang, but she quickly recognized the owner of the voice. A trace of impatience appeared on her face. Chapter 60. Xinyuan Huan stared straight at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes flashing with paranoia. Is it because you hate me that you've been pretending to be a yes man all these years? Hearing the suppressed anger in Xinyuan Huan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. Is it useful to know this? Since your highness likes to stroll in the Imperial Garden, then I won't disturb you. Turning around, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't want to communicate with Xinyuan Huan and walked towards the banquet. However, just as she turned around, Xinyuan Huan suddenly grabbed her right hand. Answer me quickly, Xinyuan Huan said with a livid face. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, waved her right hand and said in a tough voice, Let go of me. Xinyuan Huan firmly held onto Bailey Hongzhuang, not letting her leave. If you want to go back, then answer my question. Do you hate me that much? He didn't understand. Bailey Hongzhuang clearly liked him before, and even tried to commit suicide because of him breaking off the engagement. How could she suddenly change her attitude? He really didn't want to believe it. Even the suicide was just a pretense by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped moving, turned around and looked at Xinyuan Huan in front of her, and said decisively, I hate you. Xinyuan Huan was startled. Why? Why? Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. Thinking back to what you did to me, is there anything about you that I don't hate? In the past, Bailey Hongzhuang had always been dead set on Xinyuan Huan, but Xinyuan Huan never saw her as a human being. Looking at the undisguised disgust in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Xinyuan Huan couldn't help but be startled. Indeed, what he did in the past was not worthy of Bailey Hongzhuang's liking at all. I promise I will treat you well in the future. How about you be with me? Xinyuan Huan said seriously. I can't give you the status of crown princess, but I will definitely give you the most love. He couldn't forget the beauty who helped him when he was in extreme pain. As the crown prince, he could have any woman he wanted, but now he only wanted Bailey Hongzhuang. He believed that as long as he went to plead with his imperial father, he would be able to break off the engagement between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Xinyuan Huan for a moment, then suddenly said, Is your brain? I'm telling the truth. Xinyuan Huan emphasized, Even if what you say is said is true, so what? Said Xinyuan Huan's eyes, Xinyuan Huan, Xinyuan Huan, Xinyuan Huan, Huan Huan in my heart, Hongzhuang Huan, Xinyuan Huan Yu Huan, Mama Huan, exclamation point. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was resolute. She didn't care what was wrong with Xinyuan Huan. She didn't want to have anything to do with this guy. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang shake off his hand and walk away, Xinyuan Huan growled, You'd rather marry that cripple than be with me? You know, that waste life is in my hands. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned cold. In my heart, you can't compare with him. Xinyuan Huan's eyes were filled with paranoia and malice. What qualifications did Di Beichun, who had been trampled under his feet, have to be compared with him? What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang actually said that he couldn't compare with that waist. Impossible. Chapter 61. The woman I've taken a fancy to, I won't allow anyone else to touch her. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect Xianyuan Huan to do such a crazy thing. She immediately lifted her right foot and slapped Xianyuan Huan's face. Pan! Xianyuan Huan covered his slapped face and angrily glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. You dare hit me? You should be prepared to be beaten for doing such a thing. Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face was livid, her voice becoming colder and colder. Xianyuan Huan, I look down on you. As soon as her voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang coldly glanced at Xianyuan Huan before returning to the banquet hall. What Xianyuan Huan did just now really made her want to vomit. This Xianyuan Huan is really too shameless. Xiao He muttered. He can even do such a thing. He's simply a pervert. Xianyuan Huan is probably regretting it to death. Ha ha. Xiao Bai smiled proudly. Being able to see Xianyuan Huan's deflated appearance really made it feel very happy. Not long after returning to her seat, Di Beichun also returned. Wife, that slap just now wasn't light. Di Beichun chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. You saw it. When I came back and couldn't find you, I had He Mu push me around, and then I saw something I shouldn't have seen. I'm still your fiancé. Shouldn't you come forward when something like that happens? Bailey Hongzhuang asked back. I knew wife would definitely teach Xianyuan Huan a lesson. Di Beichun shrugged his shoulders, the corners of his mouth outlined in an evil and confident smile. With Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament, she definitely wouldn't give Xianyuan Huan the slightest chance. He also wanted to see how Bailey Hongzhuang would deal with it. Sure enough, I don't need to do anything. You've already dealt with it. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun's smiling face, but she couldn't help but think. Did this guy hear what I said about Xianyuan Huan being incomparable to him? Di Beichun didn't say much about this matter, only telling a few jokes to dispel Bailey Hongzhuang's doubts. After the selection banquet ended, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't go with Bailey Jintao and the others. Instead, she was sent back by Di Beichun. Wifey, why don't you stay in Qin Palace today? Di Beichun blinked his eyes and teased. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Huang Fu. I'm not interested. Her voice fell, and Bailey Hongzhuang no longer paid attention to Di Beichun and went straight back to the general's mansion. This time, she wanted to take her mother's things with her. There was no point in continuing to stay in the general's estate. She didn't know if Bailey Yuyin and the other crazy people would destroy her mother's things, so she had to take them with her. Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's disappearing figure, a trace of seriousness on his handsome face. This woman was really different from the rest. As soon as Bailey Jintao and the others returned, they asked the servants if Bailey Hongzhuang had returned. After getting an affirmative answer, they immediately rushed in. No matter what, they had to get Bailey Hongzhuang to give them an explanation for today's matter. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly packed up Qin Yayun's things with the help of the black and white fluffballs. Her mother had passed away many years ago, and there weren't many things left, just some jewelry. When she was packing up, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised to find a small booklet, which recorded Qin Yayun's feelings. Chapter 62. Bailey Hongzhuang placed the items into her chinquin pouch and walked out of the general's residence. Before she reached the front hall, Bailey Jintao's roar could be heard. Bailey Hongzhuang, you unfilial daughter, get your ass over here. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows twitched as a playful smile appeared on her face. Did this old man still think that she was the Bailey Hongzhuang of the past? As she slowly walked in the front hall, Bailey Hongzhuang saw Bailey Jintao, Su Wanjing, Bailey Yuyin, and Bailey Haoshuan all looking at her with gloomy expressions. When did you regain your sight? Bailey Jintao asked in a deep voice. The emperor had simply left him speechless today. He had to clarify everything before he could report to the emperor tomorrow. I forgot. Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently. Bailey Jintao flew into a rage. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you know who you're talking to? I know. It's the great General Bailey Jintao. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Even though Bailey Jintao was furious, her expression was still calm. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent appearance, Bailey Jintao was unable to restrain his anger. He immediately sent a palm towards Bailey Hongzhuang. It seemed that he had to teach this girl a lesson before she would confess the truth. Bailey Yuyin and the other two's eyes flashed with excitement. Bailey Hongzhuang was so arrogant during the selection banquet today. Now, they wanted to see how this trash would continue to be arrogant after being taught a lesson. Su Wanjing stood behind Bailey Jintao, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but rise in a shallow arc, daring to make their family unhappy. Bailey Hongzhuang deserved to be punished. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sharpened as she felt the fierce wind from the palm coming towards her. Her originally indifferent face now had a trace of ruthlessness and decisiveness. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang did not hesitate to meet the attack with a palm. No one would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually raise her hand to meet Bailey Jintao's palm head-on. Bailey Jintao was also stunned. He only wanted to teach this girl a lesson and make her lie in bed for a few days. He didn't expect that this girl would go all out. He was afraid that her hand would be crippled. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was Prince Chen's fiancée. If he directly crippled Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, it would definitely cause gossip. However, what happened in the next moment stunned everyone present. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang was still standing in her original position, safe and sound, even after taking a palm strike from Bailey Jintao. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. In the instant that they exchanged blows, he had clearly felt the origin power in her hands. How is this possible? Bailey Yuyin and the other two looked at Bailey Jintao in puzzlement. They did not understand why Bailey Jintao would reveal such an astonished expression. How could Bailey Hongzhuang block father's attack? Bailey Haoshuan's eyes flickered with a puzzled light. Even if Bailey Jintao had only used a portion of his strength, it was still not something that Bailey Hongzhuang could contend against. When did you start cultivating? Bailey Jintao asked in a deep voice. After this incident, he had calmed down. Today, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was really too strange. From a yes-man trash, she had suddenly become a stunning figure. Not only did she become a divine doctor that everyone praised, she was even able to cultivate with a body that had long been judged as trash. This kind of transformation was really too unimaginable. Chapter 63. Bailey Hongzhuang was already determined to be a waste when she was 5 years old, unable to cultivate at all. Now, they were suddenly told that Bailey Hongzhuang could cultivate? The most inconceivable thing was that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't cultivate at all. So how did she cultivate? Bailey Yuyin and Bailey Haoshuan looked at each other. Both of them couldn't believe it. Could it be that all along, it wasn't them who were playing with Bailey Hongzhuang, but Bailey Hongzhuang who was playing with them in the palm of her hand? What does it have to do with you when I start cultivating? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with ridicule. This so-called father of hers had never cared about her. Even if she displayed her strength now, all she got was Bailey Jintao's anger. I told you to answer my question, not to ask me. Bailey Jintao's voice became increasingly gloomy, faintly containing anger and threat clearly expressed. If you ask me, then I have to answer. What kind of rule is this? Bailey Hongzhuang coldly sneered. In these 15 years, you have never cared about my life or death. How I am now has nothing to do with you. When did I recover my sight? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. If you had found a doctor to diagnose me, then wouldn't you have known? You actually dare to speak to me like this? Bailey Jintao's face was ashen with anger. He had absolute dignity in the general's residence. So who would dare to speak to him like this? Bailey Jintao, you have never fulfilled your responsibilities as a father, so why should I fulfill my responsibilities as a daughter? Between us, we don't owe each other anything. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were powerful and resonating. When Bailey Jintao told her not to lose face for the family, her expectations for Bailey Jintao had already dissipated. If you have the ability, then get out of the general's residence. I, Bailey Jintao, don't have a daughter like you. Bailey Jintao angrily said. Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently raised her eyes. That's exactly what I want. From now on, I have nothing to do with the general's estate. With that, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and walked towards the door of the general's residence without hesitation. When she appeared in front of everyone like this, she understood that she was no longer a member of the general's estate. Bailey Jintao obviously didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to leave so indifferently. For a moment, he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's back and couldn't say a word. The moment Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the general's residence, an indescribable loneliness enveloped her. She looked at the plaque of the general's residence. She had lived here for 15 years, but this was never her home. The people inside had never been her family. Perhaps, when she came to the world 1,000 years later, she was destined to be alone for the rest of her life. The loneliness in his pitch-black eyes gradually dissipated and was replaced by a strong determination. Being free of attachments was not necessarily a bad thing for her. From now on, she would only live for herself. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang turned around, she saw He Mu standing not too far away from the general's residence. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang walk out, He Mu's face revealed a smile. His Highness was right. He said that Miss Bailey would definitely come out in a moment, and you really did come out. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Why are you here? Chapter 64. Taking the Chinquin pouch from He Mu, Bailey Hongzhuang took a quick glance and found that it was complete with blankets and other things. Her heart couldn't help but feel warm. What else did he say? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gentle. In this situation, at this moment, there was still someone who was thinking of her. His Highness also said that Godly Doctor Square is not suitable for people to live in. If Miss Bailey is unwilling to move to Prince Chen's estate, His Highness has another residence for you to stay in. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. She had never heard that Di Beichun had another residence in the Imperial City. As if seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's confusion, He Mu explained, His Highness bought this residence. He rarely goes there, so almost no one knows about it. Bailey Hongzhuang thought carefully and understood. Di Beichun was thinking of her reputation. It would not be good if the news of her breaking off all ties with the general's estate spread. Moreover, this was when she had just been bestowed a marriage. If there was another misunderstanding, the emperor would not be able to stop himself from finding someone to deal with her. Godly Doctor Square was too conspicuous. If she lived in Godly Doctor Square, it would not take long for everyone to know about it. Therefore, Di Beichun let her live in the residence. If Miss Bailey doesn't mind, I can send you to the residence now. How about it? He Mu's eyes revealed a faint joy. His young master had always been blunt with women, but he treated Miss Bailey differently. If the two of them could really become a couple, he would be happy for his young master from the bottom of his heart. Then I'll have to trouble you. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gentle, and her eyes were clear and bright. Di Beichun's residence was not far from Prince Chen's estate. It was a quiet place amidst the chaos. It was a good place. Jingli Garden. As soon as she entered Jingli Garden, Bailey Hongzhuang could smell the fragrance of peach blossoms. A large pink peach forest appeared before her eyes. With a clear and enchanting smile on her face, Bailey Hongzhuang, dressed in white, walked through the peach forest. As the wind blew, the petals fell, making her look like a peach forest fairy. As they walked, a golden figure appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's line of sight. The moonlight was enchanting, and a hazy light sprinkled on Di Beichun's body, making him look even more elegant and beautiful. He's here. The two simple words were filled with certainty and confidence. He had long expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would choose to come here. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Moonlight, a peach forest, a stone table, and fine wine. You sure enjoy yourself. That's not right. Di Beichun shook his head. Moonlight, a peach forest, a beauty, and fine wine are the most enjoyable things. Bailey Hongzhuang did not care about Di Beichun's teasing and sat down opposite him. Such a beautiful scene. We really can't let it go to waste. Why don't we have a drink? Di Beichun picked up the wine glass and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang took the wine glass and looked deeply at Di Beichun. She did not know if Di Beichun did this because he knew that she was in a bad mood. If that was the case, then Di Beichun was really considerate. On such a night, when she bid farewell to the past, She really wanted to indulge herself like this for once. The two of them chatted and drank. Neither of them talked about the other's past. They just made fun of each other or talked about other things. Chapter 65. If you feel lonely in the future, at least you have me by your side. D. Bachan's voice was gentle, and his gentle gaze was enough to intoxicate any woman. After carrying Bailey Hongzhuang to the bed and tucking her in, D. Bachan left Jingli Garden. Your Highness, do we need to ask a few maids to take care of Miss Bailey? He Mu inquired. D. Bachan waved his hand. With her personality, she'll find it troublesome to have someone take care of her. He Mu pondered for a moment, then recalled everything that Bailey Hongzhuang had done. It seemed that this was indeed the case. When Bailey Hongzhuang woke up the next day, it was already noon. Walking out of the room, Bailey Hongzhuang once again saw the sky full of peach blossoms. It was a world of pink, and her mood couldn't help but improve. After seeing this peach forest, she understood why D. Bachan wanted to buy this residence. The peach blossoms were beneficial to D. Bachan's body and could reduce the speed at which the numbness spread. Godly Doctor Square. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at Godly Doctor Square, Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu both looked at her worriedly. Miss Bailey, are you all right? Under Dong Sairu's constant signals, Du Tianxuo mustered up his courage to ask. Dong Sairu quickly followed up. Miss Bailey, please don't take things too hard. Although Prince Shun has a leg injury, I heard that he's a good person. At dawn today, the news that Hongzhuang was the legitimate daughter of the general's estate, Bailey Hongzhuang, had spread through the streets and alleys of the imperial city. When they first heard the news, Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu didn't believe it at all. It wasn't until everyone was talking about it, and they heard it from the mouths of courtiers and young ladies, that they finally believed it. This news was too shocking. One was a good-for-nothing young lady, and the other was a godly doctor with brilliant medical skills. The difference between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth, but they were the same person. After knowing Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity, the two of them didn't even have time to rejoice before they heard the news of Bailey Hongzhuang's marriage. Bailey Hongzhuang and Prince Chun, the combination of the first and second jokes in the imperial city, became a bigger joke. Looking at the two nervous faces, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Don't worry about me. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Hearing this, Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu were both stunned. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment, not daring to believe what they had just said. When they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's calm and carefree smile, they felt that they did not hear wrongly. Miss Bailey, are you really not sad? Dong Sairu was in disbelief. From the crown princess to the useless princess consort, how could the disparity be so easily overcome? What's there to be sad about? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. D. Bachan is better looking than Xin Yuan Huan. Why can't I choose the better looking one? Well, that's true. Seeing the guests coming, Bailey Hongzhuang directly walked over and began to feel the pulses of the patients. After treating 10 patients, she planned to make some preparations. Dong Sairu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's back and couldn't help but murmur, she's good-looking, but that doesn't seem to be the point. As the sun set, the red clouds reflected the sky red, and the crowd on the ground seemed to be dyed with a layer of red light. In the all-medicine workshop. Chapter 66. Big Brother G, are you angry with me? Bailey Hongzhuang's face blossomed into a flattering smile as she moved closer to Ji Wenbin. Since she came here, Ji Wenbin was the first person she befriended. She didn't want to alienate the relationship between the two because of such a thing. The friendship of providing help in times of need was always the most profound. How dare I be angry with you? Ji Wenbin's voice was a little cold and dissatisfied. Brother Ji, Bailey Hongzhuang called. You also know my situation all the time. At that time, I was grounded by the general. If I said my real name, it would be very disadvantageous for me, so I could only hide my identity. Except for that, I didn't deceive you with anything. Ji Wenbin still didn't speak. After hearing the news today, he was shocked. He didn't expect that the friend he had always been proud of would deceive him. Since Brother Ji doesn't want to see me, I'll leave first. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of loneliness, but when she took a step out, she was silently counting in her heart. 3. 2, 1. Wait. Ji Wenbin's voice rang out, and then he sighed helplessly. Alas, I also know that you were forced to do this in your situation. When he first knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had deceived him, he was very angry. But later, when he thought about it, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had her own difficulties. When he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words just now, the resentment in his heart completely dissipated, but he felt sorry for Bailey Hongzhuang. Haha, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled happily. I know that Brother Ji is knowledgeable and reasonable. He will definitely understand me. Ji Wenbin couldn't be as happy as Bailey Hongzhuang. I heard that you and Prince Chun are scheduled to get married in a month. Is this true? It's true. Why is the emperor in such a hurry to grant the marriage? Your Majesty must be unhappy to see me. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. In the eyes of the emperor, a person like her was indeed not likable. It was reasonable for the emperor to want her to marry Di Beichun as soon as possible. So, are you really willing to marry Di Beichun? Others didn't know, but Ji Wenbin knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were very close. He had seen Di Beichun a few times in Godly Physician Square. Could it be that this marriage was requested by Di Beichun? I think Di Beichun is a good person. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Compared to Xinyuan Huan, he's much more reliable. Have you really decided? Even though Ji Wenbin felt that his words were somewhat superfluous, after all, this was a marriage bestowed by the emperor. Who could defy the emperor's decree? But he still couldn't help but ask, because he hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't regret it. I've decided. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was clear, but it was filled with determination. Bailey Hongzhuang bought a pile of medicinal herbs in Myriad Medicine Square. Ever since she opened Godly Physician Square, she earned a lot of money every day. When buying medicinal herbs, she didn't have to calculate like before. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang buy so many medicinal herbs at once, Ji Wenbin was puzzled. Hongzhuang, what are you buying so many medicinal herbs for? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled. It's a secret. I have some things to do. Ji Wenbin laughed involuntarily. Bailey Hongzhuang was just pretending to be mysterious. She wanted to arouse his curiosity, but he didn't ask. After putting all the medicinal herbs in her chinquan bag, Bailey Hongzhuang went to Heavenly Jewel Pavilion. Heavenly Jewel Pavilion was the largest shop in the imperial city that specialized in things needed by cultivators. Its scale far exceeded other shops. Chapter 67. In Sky Jewel Pavilion, everything that a cultivator needed was available. Even if they didn't have it now, as long as you paid the deposit, they would help you find it as soon as possible. This was the reason why Sky Jewel Pavilion's reputation was so resounding. Master, what do you want to buy? Xiaohei asked curiously. Today, Master was really spending a lot of money. She spent a lot of gold coins. If only she could be so generous when buying food for Xiaohei. Pill Furnace. Her clear and bright eyes were overflowing with color. She had wanted to buy a pill furnace for a long time. Previously, she didn't have enough money and could only wait. Now that she was rich, she could finally buy a pill furnace. Just as she walked into Sky Jewel Pavilion, Bailey Hongzhuang understood why Sky Jewel Pavilion was so popular. Just the layout alone was enough to make people's eyes light up. Even though it was nighttime, Sky Jewel Pavilion was still as bright as day. All the pills, rare herbs, and weapons were clearly marked with prices and grades, allowing people to quickly find what they needed. The attendants were all handsome men and beautiful women. Their faces were filled with gentle and courteous smiles, making people feel comfortable. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, a female attendant immediately walked over and smiled. Miss, what do you want to buy? Pill furnace. Do you have one here? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She looked around and found that there were only pills, weapons, and the like. She didn't see any pill furnaces. Hearing that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to buy a pill furnace, the female attendant's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. However, she quickly returned to normal. Although Sky Jewel Pavilion sold pill furnaces, there were very few people who bought pill furnaces. After all, pill refiners were rare existences. Even in the imperial city, there weren't many of them. Could it be that this unusually young lady wanted to buy a pill furnace? The pill furnace is on the second floor. Miss, please follow me. The female attendant bent over and stretched out her hand, indicating Bailey Hongzhuang to follow her to the second floor. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. As long as she could buy a pill furnace, she would be satisfied. She had to start refining pills herself and increase her strength as soon as possible. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang reached the second floor, she saw a figure that she abnormally hated. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Bailey Yuyin was accompanying Du Hanyue to buy a pill furnace. Du Hanyue was an alchemist apprentice. Although her own alchemy skills were not good enough, her master Yin Qingfeng's alchemy skills were very good. The hunting competition was just around the corner. She and Bailey Haoxuan had to perform well, so a suitable pill was even more important. Today, she had called Du Hanyue out in order to please her, so that Du Hanyue would agree to help persuade Yun Qingfeng to help her and her brother refine pills. But this Du Hanyue was ruthless enough. The first thing she said was to buy an alchemy furnace. This thing was extraordinarily expensive, but given the current situation, they had no choice but to pay the price. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang appear, Bailey Yuyin had a look of disdain on her face. "Oh, you actually dare to come to the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion? If you can come, why can't I?" Bailey Hongzhuang said sarcastically. This girl would always take the initiative to find trouble with her every time she saw her. Bailey Yuyin then realized that the current Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer the same person as before. Just by opening Godly Doctor Square, her income had far exceeded hers. Although she ate well in the general's residence and had a lot of money, her daily expenses were also quite high. Hence, she did not have much money on hand. Chapter 68. In front of her were 10 pill furnaces, and with her eyesight, she could tell that the silver pill furnace was of the best quality. If it was in the past, these pill furnaces would not catch her eye, but now that she was refining low-level pills, these pill furnaces were enough. As her strength increased, she would definitely see better pill furnaces in the future, and she could just change them at that time. "Bailey Yuyin, I want this pill furnace. Can you get it to me?" Du Hanyue pointed at the silver pill furnace and asked. She had been eyeing this pill furnace for a long time, but it was too expensive, and she did not have enough money. Now that Bailey Yuyin had something to ask of her, she naturally would not let it go. Seeing that Du Hanyue had chosen the most expensive pill furnace, Bailey Yuyin secretly cursed at her black heart. Looking carefully at the price below, 200,000 gold coins, this price had frightened her. Her father knew that she had come to curry favor with Du Hanyue today, so he had given her 100,000 gold coins. Adding on her daily savings, she only had 130,000 gold coins. She thought that this amount of money was enough, but she did not expect Du Hanyue to ask for 200,000 gold coins. Bailey Yuyin revealed a difficult expression. "Miss Du, this 200,000 gold coins. 200,000 gold coins. She simply cannot take it out right now." Seeing Bailey Yuyin's expression, Du Hanyue said unhappily, "If you're not willing, then forget it." "Miss Du, it's not that I'm not willing," Bailey Yuyin quickly said. "It's just that 200,000 gold coins is not a small amount, and I don't have that much money. How about changing it?" She had finally coaxed Du Hanyue over, and Du Hanyue had said that as long as she was happy, she would be able to persuade Yin Qingfeng to help her refine pills. Bailey Yuyin was also helpless. Although Heavenly Treasure Pavilion had pills for sale, the pills that she needed had already been snatched away. Everyone was preparing for the royal family's hunt. If it wasn't for the fact that there were very few alchemists in the city, and there were even fewer alchemists with strong alchemy skills, she would not be willing to come here to curry favor with Du Hanyue. "I like this one. I'm not interested in anything else." Du Hanyue's voice was slightly cold. "If you can't afford it, then forget it. You're not the only one who wants to ask my master for help." Hearing this, Bailey Yuyin became anxious. "Miss Du, please wait a moment. I'll think of a way to buy this pill furnace. How about it?" Only then did Du Hanyue reveal a satisfied expression. "Then I'll wait." Looking at Bailey Yuyin and Bailey Yuyin's actions, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with mockery. She didn't expect that Bailey Yuyin would have a time when she was behaving like this. "Miss, what price do you want to buy?" The female attendant inquired. Although she didn't know this young lady, she could tell that this young lady wasn't an ordinary person just by looking at her clothes and temperament. Thus, her attitude became even more humble. Bailey Yuyin was thinking about how to get 70,000 gold coins when she suddenly heard what the female attendant said to Bailey Hongzhuang. She couldn't help but chuckle. Haha, did I hear wrongly? You want to buy an alchemy furnace? What's wrong with me buying an alchemy furnace? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. You're not an alchemist. Are you going to buy an alchemy furnace to cook at home? Bailey Yuyin laughed. Originally, Du Hanyue's matter made her very unhappy. But now, her mood was much better. This Bailey Hongzhuang was overestimating herself. Chapter 69. I want this pill furnace. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed at the silver pill furnace in front of her. Bailey Yuyin's smile instantly froze and turned into a thick anger. Bailey Hongzhuang, are you provoking me? Bailey Hongzhuang was not an alchemist, so naturally she did not need to buy a pill furnace. In her opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang deliberately said she wanted to buy a pill furnace after seeing her in Du Hanyue. But now she actually chose the pill furnace that Du Hanyue fancied. If this was not a provocation, then what was it? Du Hanyue also became nervous. She had always wanted to buy this pill furnace. Fortunately, there were very few people who bought pill furnaces in the Imperial City, and this pill furnace had been in the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion for several months without being bought. This girl actually wanted to buy it? Bailey Hongzhuang lazily glanced at Bailey Yuyin. You think too much. I am not interested in you. She was not interested at all. She did not even have the interest to provoke her. Bailey Yuyin. Du Hanyue quickly called out to Bailey Yuyin. She absolutely could not let this pill furnace be bought by others. Bailey Yuyin immediately understood and said to the female attendant, this pill furnace was chosen by us first. You can't sell it to her. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled. She slightly raised her chin and looked at Bailey Yuyin with a smile. Then you buy it. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bailey Yuyin's expression turned sluggish. She did not have that much money on her right now. Since you can't afford it, I should buy it. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and looked at the female attendant. Am I right? The female attendant awkwardly looked at Bailey Yuyin and the other two and nodded. That's right. Do you want to buy it now? Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Bailey Hongzhuang lazily said. Wait for me for a moment. Can I go back and get the money? Bailey Yuyin gritted her teeth and said. 200,000 gold coins had indeed exceeded her expectations, but just for this one breath, she absolutely could not allow Bailey Hongzhuang to buy this pill furnace. Miss, you can pay a deposit of 100,000 gold coins first. If you don't come back, then the gold coins won't be refunded, the female attendant said. Bailey Yuyin's face turned slightly pale. Even she didn't know if her father would agree to her request for another 70,000 gold coins. After all, 200,000 gold coins was not a small sum for the entire general's residence. In addition, they had to pay for Yun Qingfeng's alchemy fees. This sum was simply too large. Seeing Bailey Yuyin so hesitant, the female attendant couldn't help but say, Miss, these two slightly cheaper pill furnaces are also very good. Why don't you consider them again? Bailey Yuyin looked at Du Hanyue, but Du Hanyue's attitude was unyielding. Other than this pill furnace, she did not want anything else. Help me wrap it up, Bailey Hongzhuang said as she raised her hand. She did not plan to continue wasting time here. Just based on Bailey Yuyin's attitude, she was certain that Bailey Yuyin could not afford it. The female attendant took the pill furnace from the shelf. Bailey Yuyin waited for the pill furnace to disappear from the second floor. She clenched her fists so tightly that they were about to bleed. In the past, Bailey Hongzhuang had always been an existence that she had stepped on under her feet. Now, she was actually holding her head high in front of her. On the first floor of the treasure pavilion, Bailey Hongzhuang happily paid the 200,000 gold coins and kept the pill furnace in her bag. When the female attendant saw such a young Bailey Hongzhuang take out 200,000 gold coins without saying anything, her eyes revealed a trace of surprise. Chapter 70. This female attendant had also just arrived in the Imperial City. If she had stayed in the Imperial City long enough, she would have known that the woman in front of her was the physician of Godly Physician Square, the eldest daughter of the general's residence, Bailey Hongzhuang. Look at that damned woman, Bailey Yuyin, gnashing her teeth so hard. It's simply too delightful. Xiaohei could not hide the excitement on her face. After seeing this scene, I'm willing to not eat tonight. You said it yourself. You won't eat tonight. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed. Xiaohei immediately collapsed. Master, aren't I just happy for you? How can you bear to treat me like this? Xiaobai smiled wisely. The evils you bring upon yourself are the hardest to bear. Do you think that if I don't have anything to eat, I'll let you have something to eat? Xiaohei threatened. Xiaobai was stunned and quickly tried to help. Master, Xiaohei only said that because she was happy. You must not take away her food. Seeing the two fellows chattering nonstop for food, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. All right. I'll let you guys have a big meal tonight. Long live Master. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to Jingli Garden, Di Beichen was still sitting at the stone table. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, a smile appeared on his handsome face. Looks like you're very busy today. You're only back now. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Of course. I'm not like you, an idle person. Di Beichen was not annoyed. Have you had dinner? I've asked the servants to prepare some. I'll just try the chef's cooking. Di Beichen clapped his hands, and the servants immediately served the dishes. Looking at the sumptuous dishes on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly felt a trace of moisture on her head. She could not help but look up. Was it going to rain? The bright moon hung high in the sky, and there were no signs of rain. She then realized that it was the two fellows' saliva. Master, there's so much delicious food. Xiaohei exclaimed excitedly. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened, and her voice carried a hint of threat. If you dare to drool on my head again, I'll make you so hungry that you'll be one size smaller for the next few days. Do you believe me? Harry Ball was stunned and quickly covered its mouth, and did not dare to drool any longer. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's constantly changing expression, a touch of surprise appearing in his eyes. What are you doing? It's nothing, Bailey Hongzhuang replied. I just think that the chef's skills are good. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, Bailey Hongzhuang showed a satisfied smile. Since she came here, it was the first time she had eaten such delicious food. Needless to say, the food in the general's residence was excellent, and she rarely went to the restaurant. However, even the food in the restaurant could not be compared to this. It's getting late. You should rest early. Di Beichen smiled warmly and was about to leave Jingli Garden and return to Prince Chen's estate. Wait. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly called out to Di Beichen. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. What's wrong? You can stay at Jingli Garden tonight. He Mu choked when he heard this. He did not expect Miss Bailey to be such a proactive person. Although young Master and Miss Bailey were going to get married in a month, they were not married yet. Di Beichen pretended to be shy. My wife, your husband will feel embarrassed if you take the initiative. However, if my wife is willing, I don't mind. Chapter 71. You're thinking too much. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, I don't have any other intentions. Di Beichen smiled knowingly. I know that my wife doesn't have any other intentions. That's all you mean. I understand. That's so ambiguous. What do you know? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her voice. I just want to treat your legs. As soon as she said this, Di Beichen's eyes rippled, but he quickly recovered his teasing expression. Actually, I think it's not a bad idea to talk about life's ideals in the house. If you don't want to treat it, then forget it. Don't. If my wife can help your husband, then that's naturally for the best. Di Beichen hurriedly said, smiling innocently. His face was like a blooming flower, inexplicably bright and moving. Heimu also allowed a sigh of relief. He knew that Miss Bailey wouldn't be so proactive. However, after knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to treat Di Beichen's legs, he couldn't help but feel excited. Young Master's legs had been crippled for 3 years, and many people had already lost hope in him. However, he still believed that there would be a day when young Master could stand up again. Bailey Hongzhuang's face became more serious, and she began to treat Di Beichen. The peach blossom fragrance had a certain suppressive effect on Di Beichen's illness, so it was best to treat Di Beichen at this time. After carefully confirming the degree of paralysis in Di Beichen's legs, Bailey Hongzhuang asked, "Have you felt the numbness increasing recently?" Di Beichen nodded slightly, a little. Looking at the calm and handsome face in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but admire him. This guy was only in his teens, but not only did he not give up on himself in the face of the possibility of paralysis, he was still as handsome as ever. This wasn't something that an ordinary person could do. From this point, she was certain that Di Beichen's mental fortitude was strong. "Wife, do you really know what illness I have?" Di Beichen asked. It wasn't that he didn't believe in Bailey Hongzhuang, but he had already visited many famous doctors, and not a single one of them was clear about his illness. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. "Why would I lie to you about this kind of thing?" When Di Beichen protected her from being splashed by Bailey Hongzhuang's wine, she had already decided to help Di Beichen, just so that when she was alone, there was still Di Beichen who remembered her. "Miss Bailey, what illness is young master's illness? It couldn't have been poisoned, right?" Hemu couldn't help but ask. He really wanted to know why the young master, who had always been outstanding and peerless, suddenly became crippled and fell from the altar. If it's illnesses, he would, "You've been investigating for so long, but you shouldn't have found anything." Hemu nodded awkwardly. It was because of this that he felt so sullen. "There's no need to investigate further. This illness isn't caused by poison." Dr. Feng also said the same thing, but Dr. Feng also doesn't know the reason. Di Beichen's handsome face had a smile. Even when he asked this question, he still had a calm expression. "This is a problem with your physique," Bailey Hongzhuang explained. "Fortunately, that doctor suppressed the speed of your body's paralysis. Otherwise, it would have taken more effort to recover." "A problem with my physique?" Di Beichen was puzzled. He had thought of many possibilities, but never this one. Chapter 72. Of all the physiques that everyone was familiar with, he didn't have a single one of them. "Have you heard of the cursed physique?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked as she took Di Beichen's pulse. "Of all the physiques, I've never heard of the cursed physique." He knew of almost all the rare physiques in the Illusion Jade continent, but he had never heard of the cursed physique. Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't surprised. The cursed physique is very rare, so it's normal that you haven't heard of it. Your cultivation speed was very fast in the past, far surpassing normal cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Then, your legs suddenly became numb, starting from your toes and slowly spreading upwards. Until now, your cultivation speed has decreased because of this. Di Beichen's eyes kept changing, but his heart was filled with shock. Now that his cultivation speed had slowed down, he had never told anyone about it. Even divine Dr. Feng didn't know. Bailey Hongzhuang only took his pulse to understand everything. Could it be that he really had the cursed physique? Hemu was also stunned. Lady Bailey was too miraculous. She really lived up to her reputation as a godly doctor. Can my physique still be changed? Di Beichen's eyes were filled with an undercurrent of light. Even though he hid his nervousness well, Bailey Hongzhuang still caught it, and the smile on her face gradually softened. "With me here, of course you can." The moment she said that, Di Beichen's eyes that were as deep as the sea suddenly blossomed with boundless light. After 3 years, there was finally a ray of hope. Looking at her gentle smile, his cold heart seemed to have the momentum to melt. However, this process is very difficult, and it won't be easy to endure it. Bailey Hongzhuang said in a low voice, "If you can't endure it, you will die." If he couldn't endure this pain, it would be better to suppress the numbness in his body and live on. Otherwise, if he gave up during the process of changing his physique, he would truly die. Di Beichen's expression was calm. Even when he heard the word die, his expression didn't change, and the determination in his eyes never wavered. "Wife, don't worry. This little pain won't be able to stump your husband." Di Beichen's voice was low, and his handsome face was still teasing her, but the silent seriousness in his eyes was seen by the woman in front of him. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at those resolute eyes. "Since you've decided, then I'll help you to the end. Helping me change my physique will affect you?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "It's just hard work." Listening to her words, although Bailey Hongzhuang's words were very simple, Di Bei-chun understood that it was absolutely not just this. Since the process of change was so difficult, if he couldn't get through it, he would die, and Bailey Hongzhuang would also have a hard time. Of Teat, as have his TSS, as Titis SS at TSSS haves, it's a very long process to change from the cursed physique to the physique of destiny. You have to be mentally prepared. With that, Bailey Hongzhuang prepared to perform acupuncture on Di Bei-chun. Suddenly, Di Bei-chun grabbed her hand. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes lifted slightly as she looked at Di Bei-chun suspiciously. She didn't understand why he had suddenly grabbed her. Di Bei-chun seriously looked at the exquisite face in front of him, and his voice was low and hoarse. "Why are you helping me? Why?" Chapter 73. Staring at those eyes that were as deep as the sea, Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth slowly blossomed into a smile. "When you helped me, didn't you also have no reason? This is different." Di Bei-chun raised his voice. "Aren't you worried that I helped you because I want you to treat me?" What he did was just a small thing. Anyone else would have done the same, but what Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to do for him was far more than that. "Is that important?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Di Bei-chun was stunned. He didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to answer like this. "How could these not be important? When you asked this question, I knew that you didn't help me because of this." Bailey Hongzhuang's smile became gentler. "What's more, even if that's the case, I won't care." She had never regretted the decision she had made. She didn't know Di Bei-chun's true identity, nor did she know the reason why Di Bei-chun was so close to her, but she believed that Di Bei-chun was sincere when he was with her. Why? Perhaps it was because for the first time, someone stood in front of her. Perhaps it was because for the first time, someone understood her unhappiness. Perhaps it was because of the throbbing in her heart, because this was enough. Di Bei-chun suddenly realized that he couldn't see through Bailey Hongzhuang at all. Usually, although he didn't understand why Bailey Hongzhuang had medical skills, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was very simple when they were together. At this moment, he suddenly couldn't understand Bailey Hongzhuang. Was the problem that others cared so much about not important in her eyes? "Why don't you care?" "Because you did help me, didn't you?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. If she had doubted Di Bei-chun before, now she felt that Di Bei-chun was also a kind person. Although he was usually complicated and sophisticated, after encountering a simple way of thinking, she understood that he was actually very kind. Looking at the smiling face in front of him, Di Bei-chun felt that his world was so complicated for the first time. "If there are no problems, I'll start." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked, "What I need to do now is to deal with the problem of your legs being paralyzed. As for changing your physique, that will require some rare items. But you have to believe that once your physique changes, your cultivation talent will increase again, so there's no need to rush." Hearing this, Di Bei-chun nodded his head. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was comforting him. Calm the silver needles pierced the acupuncture points on Di Bei-chun's legs. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were serious, each needle fast and accurate. SSSSS, he's He'd be an eyesore if he continued to stay there. It's better to leave the young master and Miss Bailey alone. The peach forest regained its tranquility. Only a white, enchanting figure and a tall, pale golden figure remained. The woman squatted beside the man's legs. The man stared quietly at the woman. The peach blossoms drifted in the air. The fragrance assailed the nostrils. The figure was hazy, like a dream. After accurately inserting the needles into everyone's acupuncture points, Bailey Hongzhuang said, "It'll be very painful. If you can't take it, you can shout." Di Bei-chun nodded slightly. "I'm fine. You can start." Chapter 74. Di Bei-chun only felt that his legs, which had been numb all this time, were numb, as if there were countless small insects crawling on them. The itchiness was unbearable. However, his eyes were filled with joy. For the past 3 years, his legs had been numb, but now they could feel them. The numbness and itchiness gradually turned into pain, as if countless needles were stabbing him. The pain was extreme. Di Bei-chun endured the pain in his legs, but his face did not show any signs of pain. Only the bean-sized beads of sweat that kept appearing on his forehead and his slightly furrowed brows showed that he was not completely numb. Looking at Di Baichun like this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with admiration. Di Baichun's mind was indeed tough. Ordinary people would not be able to endure this kind of pain, but he was able to maintain a normal expression. When Bailey Hongzhuang was sizing up Di Baichun was also sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang. Fine beads of sweat appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's smooth forehead, and her pretty face was a little pale. It could be seen that she was also under a lot of pressure. Di Baichun's heart was slightly touched. All along, everyone he came into contact with had their own interests as the most important thing. No one would help others for no reason. Perhaps it was because he had lived in this kind of environment for too long that even he had become such a person. It was also because of this that his heart was touched when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. Time gradually passed, and the pain intensified. Di Baichun's brows were tighter and tighter. "If it hurts, just shout. I won't laugh at you," Bailey Hongzhuang said. Di Baichun pulled out a smile. He had suffered a lot since he was young. Although it was uncomfortable now, it was not beyond his tolerance. Compared to the past, it was nothing. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichun's legs and saw a layer of small ripples slowly spreading down from his knees. As long as this layer of energy spread to the soles of his feet, Di Baichun's legs would regain their senses. "Master, your cultivation level isn't high enough. Don't force yourself," Xiaohei said worriedly. Needles not only consumed mental power, but also elemental energy. Bailey Hongzhuang was only at the late stage of the mysterious Earth realm, so she didn't have enough elemental energy. "I understand." Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face was pale. She didn't plan to completely cure Di Baichun today. The longer he persisted, the shorter the treatment time would be. Di Baichun also saw Bailey Hongzhuang's pale face. He suddenly pulled Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "You can't hold on anymore. Let's stop here." Looking at the nervous, handsome face, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She didn't insist, but took out the silver needles and put them back in a needle bag. "Come here every day at this time. In about 7 days, the paralysis in your legs will be cured." "Okay, then I'll go rest first." Bailey Hongzhuang turned around. She had consumed a lot of energy just now. Although she knew the treatment method, her current strength was not as strong as before, so the burden was greater. Di Baichun pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his arms with his right hand. "What are you doing?" Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. "I'll take you back to your room." "No need. I'm not that weak. Don't move. I'll take you back." Chapter 75. After Di Baichun left, the two furballs hopped onto the bed, their faces full of confusion. "Master, why are you helping Di Baichun like this?" Xiaohei was puzzled. This was a losing deal, and it was not in line with Master's personality. There are some things that there is no absolute answer. Bailey Hongzhuang said calmly. Di Baichun had hidden his strength well, and she was almost certain that there was a huge secret behind him that no one knew about. It was very likely that he had the support of other powers. In the eyes of others, being a member of a powerful family was naturally glorious, but she understood the sorrow of being a member of a powerful family. There was never any mercy there. As long as one did not have enough strength, they would be trampled on. From a genius that everyone admired to a cripple, Di Baichun's inner torment could be imagined. Although it would take a lot of effort to cure him, it would not harm her. Even though this was not her style, she was willing to make an exception this time. In the following days, Di Baichun would come to Jingli Garden every night, and Bailey Hongzhuang would perform acupuncture on him. The numbness in his legs was getting better and better, and he only had to wait for 7 days before he could stand up again. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the booklet that Qin Yayun had written. It recorded Qin Yayun's feelings, and she also wanted to understand Qin Yayun's thoughts. In this booklet, Bailey Hongzhuang understood Qin Yayun's love for Bailey Jintao. She had thought that after becoming the wife of a general, she would be happy, but she had never thought that she would be pushed into a bottomless abyss. The words were initially filled with longing and anticipation, but in the end, they were filled with disappointment and desolation. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. Her mother had liked the wrong person in the beginning. When she flipped to the last page of the booklet, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly realized that the two pieces of paper were stuck together. She could clearly see that there were words written on the inside. So why did they deliberately stick them together? After using a special method to separate the two pieces of paper, Bailey Hongzhuang finally saw the contents of the paper. However, with one look, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be stunned. After reading the contents of the paper in shock, her heart could not calm down for a long time, because it was written that she was not Qin Yeyun's biological daughter. It turned out that when Qin Yeyun had lied to Bailey Jintao and said that she was pregnant, Bailey Jintao had not suspected her, but this matter had caused Su Wanjing's dissatisfaction. In the following days, Bailey Jintao and Qin Yeyun's mother's heart, S's heart's. Originally, Qin's was this is just as Qin Yeyun was at a loss of what to do. The maid suddenly discovered a baby in swaddling clothes outside the door. This baby was Bailey Hongzhuang. So I'm not Qin Yeyun and Bailey Hongzhuang's child. Bailey Hongzhuang exclaimed in shock. After coming back to her senses, she felt a burst of relief. She really didn't want a father like Bailey Jintao. Since they weren't related by blood, she could finally relax. However, who are my biological parents? Why did you place yourself at the back door of the general's residence? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. According to Qin Yeyun's description, her body was covered in blood when she was brought back. It was obvious that her parents had no choice but to keep her. Chapter 76. Bailey Hongzhuang found a white jade pendant among Qin Yeyun's belongings. This was the jade pendant that she had hung around her neck, and it was the only proof that she had to acknowledge her parents. Hanging the jade pendant around her neck, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were as dark as the night. She had never thought that she had such a complicated and confusing past. Nighttime. Di Beichen looked at the absent-minded Bailey Hongzhuang and asked with concern, "Wife, what's wrong with you today? Is something the matter?" Ever since she had met Bailey Hongzhuang today, she had been thinking about other things. Even when she was talking to him, she was always flustered. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. It's nothing. After hearing this shocking news, she had been thinking about how to find out the truth. But in a sea of people, it was too difficult to find out everything with just a jade pendant. Di Beichun looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and suddenly said, "Although I don't know what happened, you can trust me. If you need my help, just tell me." Seeing Di Beichun's serious expression, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that he really wanted to help her. She nodded and said, "Thank you." Di Beichun didn't say much. If Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to tell him, she would. If she didn't want to, he wouldn't ask. "Let me do the acupuncture for you." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "After today, you will be able to stand up." Di Beichun smiled. "Thank you for your hard work." Over the past 6 days, he could clearly feel the numbness in his legs slowly disappearing. His calves had completely recovered, but he still couldn't feel anything in his feet. Once today's treatment was over, he would be able to stand up again. He Mu, who was watching from a distance, was extremely grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. Ever since the young master's legs became numb, he hadn't seen the young master smile from the bottom of his heart for a long time. It was because of Bailey Hongzhuang that young master could return to how he used to be. Bailey Hongzhuang took back the silver needles with a pale face, but the corners of her mouth overflowed with a smile. "Try standing up." Di Beichen was slightly startled. He had been sitting in a wheelchair for so long that he had almost forgotten how it felt to stand up. When he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, his heart trembled for no reason. Perhaps he had been looking forward to this day for too long. When this day arrived, a trace of fear rose in his heart. If he didn't succeed in standing up, then wouldn't he fall back into the bottomless abyss? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled but didn't say anything. She just looked at Di Beichun encouragingly. She had dealt with many patients, so she could understand Di Beichun's feelings at the moment. Di Beichun's expression returned to normal. Clearly, he had mentally adjusted himself. He supported himself on the wheelchair with both hands and slowly stood up. Once again feeling his feet on solid ground, a dazzling smile bloomed on Di Beichun's face. After so long, he finally stood up. Stepping forward, Di Beichun took a few steps. Suddenly, he flew into the peach forest and started running. His movements were so agile that no one would have guessed that he had been in a wheelchair for so long. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. As a doctor, being able to see a patient recover was also something to be happy about. He Mu was also unable to contain his joy. He was so excited that he almost couldn't speak. Young master. Young master stood up. He really wanted to impudently shout out loud. It had been 3 years. Chapter 77. Suddenly, a figure quickly descended, and Bailey Hongzhuang was pulled into an embrace. The fragrance of peach blossoms wafted into her nose, but she froze on the spot. Di Beichun's face was full of smiles, and he slightly bent down to Bailey Hongzhuang's ear and said, "Thank you. Thank you." 2 simple words, filled with his infinite gratitude, were repeated twice. Bailey Hongzhuang probably didn't know what it meant for him to be able to stand up again. After hearing these words, her stiff body slightly relaxed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "You're welcome." When Di Beichun stood up, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that he was really tall, and her height only reached his chest. His imposing figure was broad and muscular, and it made people feel comfortable and safe. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to rest, Di Beichun couldn't help but recall the feeling of her soft fragrance in his arms. He didn't know why he suddenly did that, but fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't reject him. After Di Beichun regained his ability to walk, he still pretended to be disabled in front of others. It wasn't time for him to expose himself in front of others. But every night, when Di Beichun came to Jingli Garden, he would return to his original appearance. Bailey Hongzhuang once again went into seclusion. Other than going to Godly Doctor Square, she would be in Jingli Garden. Right now, the most important thing was to increase her strength. Di Beichun didn't disturb Bailey Hongzhuang. Every time, he would quietly sit in the peach forest and only leave when it was late at night. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang was skillfully refining pills. Her alchemy skills had always been good, and after transmigrating, her mental strength had greatly increased. Refining these lower-grade pills couldn't be easier. On this day, when Bailey Hongzhuang came to Godly Doctor Square again, she directly took out several white porcelain bottles from her chinquin bag. A few days ago, she had asked Du Tianxua to buy a counter and place in Godly Doctor Square, just for today. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Du Tianxua and Dong Sairu both moved closer to her. "Miss Bailey, what are you planning to sell?" Dong Sairu was puzzled. Godly Doctor Square's business was booming every day. She didn't understand what Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to sell. If he were to sell something unrelated, it would not benefit Godly Doctor Square at all. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "Why don't you open it and see?" Dong Sairu and Du Tianxua looked at each other and immediately picked up the white porcelain bottle to examine it. The moment they saw it, their eyes widened. This is a medicinal pill?" Du Tianxua asked in disbelief. "Not bad." Du Tianxua swallowed a mouthful of saliva. There were so many white porcelain bottles on the counter. Just how many pills were there? Just one pill was already worth a lot. Du Tianxua didn't even dare to imagine that there were so many pills here. "Miss Bailey, where did you get these pills from?" Dong Sairu was extremely excited. Medicinal pills had always been in short supply. The number of alchemists in the Imperial City was already very small, so there were even fewer pills to sell. Miss Bailey was too capable, wasn't she? She could actually bring so many pills at once. "I refined them." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled warmly. "Go and prepare some well-packaged brocade boxes to wrap the pills. As for the price of the pills, just put a label on it. The price will be 20% higher than Heavenly Treasures Pavilion." Chapter 78. Heavenly Jewel Pavilion's price is already very high. If we raise it by another 20%, everyone will go to Heavenly Jewel Pavilion. How will we have any business then? Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders indifferently. "If we can't sell it, then leave it. We don't lack money. Besides, it's impossible that we can't sell it." The reason why the price was raised by 20% was because the effect of the pills she refined was 20% better than ordinary pills. Although Heavenly Jewel Pavilion's price was slightly lower, Heavenly Jewel Pavilion's quantity of pills could not be compared to hers. Now that all the nobles were preparing for the hunting competition, it was the best time to sell the pills that these low-level cultivators needed. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was so certain, Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu obediently went to buy the brocade boxes. Only the brocade boxes could set off the value of the pills. They had always been convinced by Bailey Hongzhuang, because up until now, Bailey Hongzhuang had done everything that made people gasp in amazement. Every day, there were 10 patients who came to Bailey Hongzhuang after the other doctors were helpless. But up until now, they had not seen anyone that Bailey Hongzhuang could not cure. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was younger than them, her medical skills were superb. As long as they were by Bailey Hongzhuang's side, they felt incomparably honored. The news that Godly Dr. Square was selling pills quickly spread throughout the imperial city. After all, Godly Dr. Square's business was booming every day. The sudden addition of a few shelves naturally attracted everyone's attention. With one look, everyone discovered that Godly Dr. Square was actually selling pills. Moreover, the quantity of pills was even more than Heavenly Jewel Pavilion. Bailey Yin's mood was very bad. She had finally gotten closer to Du Han Yue with great difficulty. But Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden appearance had ruined everything. Sister, don't be angry over this matter. Bailey Haoshuan consoled. Bailey Hongzhuang was just venting her anger and wasted 200,000 gold coins. She's not an alchemist. Buying a pill furnace is purely for decoration. Hearing that, Bailey Yin nodded slightly. But the resentment on her face was hard to conceal. Originally, us brother and sister could have gotten a Peiyuan Dan, but now Bailey Hongzhuang destroyed it. We can't ask Master Yin to refine the energy pills, but we can find a way to buy them. Why don't I go talk to the shopkeeper of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion and ask him to find a way to buy us 2 energy cultivation pills? There's no need. Bailey Yin sighed. I've already asked around. Right now, everyone is scrambling to buy the Peiyuan pills. Heavenly Jewel Pavilion's Peiyuan pills have already been sold out. Now that we're finally able to get the Peiyuan pills from other places, who knows how long we'll have to wait. The energy cultivation pill was used by low-level cultivators to stabilize their strength and speed up their cultivation. Before the imperial hunting competition, it was best for young cultivators to take the energy pills. Now that the strength of each family's younger generation was about the same, whoever could get the energy pills would be able to increase their strength by a large margin. It would be very helpful for them to take the first place. If everyone didn't have the energy pills, it would be fine. But Bailey Yuyin already knew that Prime Minister Li Yuyue had the energy pills. Bailey Haoshuan also frowned. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were abominable. He wanted to rush to Godly Dr. Square and teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. Chapter 79. Have you guys heard? Godly Dr. Square is starting to sell pills. A few families have already gone to buy vitality pills. Not only that, I've also heard that Godly Dr. Square's pills are 20% more expensive than Heavenly Jewel Pavilion, but there are still quite a few people going to buy them. Vitality pills are good, but the price is too high. It's not something that we can afford. The royal hunting competition is coming soon, so all the officials are fighting for resources for the younger generation. Godly Dr. Square is going to make a fortune this time. Bailey Yuyin and Bailey Haoshuan looked at each other. They even suspected that they had misheard. Godly Dr. Square was actually selling vitality pills? Bailey Haoshuan walked to the next table and asked, "Is what you guys said true?" The 3 of them were originally very angry that their conversation had been interrupted. However, after recognizing Bailey Haoshuan's identity, the 3 of them no longer dared to show any dissatisfaction. They nodded and said, "It's true. Why would Godly Dr. Square sell pills?" Bailey Yuyin was puzzled. From what everyone was saying, it seemed that there were quite a few pills. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang was telling the truth when she said that she's a pill refiner? Bailey Haoshuan could not help but ask, "How is that possible?" Bailey Hongzhuang did not hesitate to refute Bailey Haoshuan's guess. With her looks, how could she be a pill refiner? In the entire Shengxian continent, pill refiners were respected existences. Just the harsh requirements to become a pill refiner were enough to stop countless people. How could a trash like Bailey Hongzhuang be a pill refiner? What a joke. Bailey Hauschwan also felt that his guess was not possible. He smiled awkwardly. Why don't we go to Godly Doctor Square to take a look? Seeing is believing. They would know once they went to take a look. Bailey Yuyin nodded. Let's go take a look. When the two of them arrived at Godly Doctor Square, they discovered that there was a group of commoners surrounding Godly Doctor Square. Everyone was excitedly discussing the matter of Godly Doctor Square selling pills. This miracle Dr. Hong Zhuang is really resourceful. She can even sell such a rare elixir. I heard from other people in Godly Doctor Square that this elixir was personally refined by Godly Dr. Hong Zhuang. I can't believe it. I didn't expect that Miss Bailey had been hiding her strength all this time. Thinking back, we were really laughable. When Bailey heard that this pill was personally refined by Bailey Hongzhuang, the disdain in her eyes deepened. This woman doesn't even know how to brag. Even though Du Han Yue had been learning alchemy from Grandmaster Yin for so long, she was still just an alchemist apprentice. She couldn't even refine a single pill. Bailey Hongzhuang had been staying in the general's residence for more than 10 years. It was impossible for her to come into contact with an alchemist. So how could she know how to refine pills? Bailey Yuyin and Bailey Hauschwan squeezed through the crowd and finally saw the shelves in Godly Doctor Square. Perfectly round elixirs were placed in brocade boxes. Among them was the energy-enhancing pill that they needed the most. Looking at the number of Peiyuan pills, both of their eyes were filled with shock at the same time. They had tried every possible way to get their hands on a single energy-enhancing pill. They didn't expect Godly Doctor Square to have so many. Bailey Yuyin's eyes were red with envy. How could the person under her feet have so many energy-enhancing pills? Sister, why don't we buy two? Bailey Hauschwan asked.